Chapter 4273. At that moment, there were 3 huge pits in the Blackbone Barrenland. In each of the pits, there was a figure with a powerful aura. While they were Murong Yongya, Wei Yuntian, and Shui Guchong. I must win this time. Even if I have to sacrifice my life, I must win. Murong Yongya's face was ferocious. His aura quickly became stronger like an unstoppable volcano. He knew that he could not afford to lose. He had already lost to Sakyamuni. He could not lose to Zhuon again. Otherwise, he would have to live in the shadows of Sakyamuni and Zhuon forever. His cultivation path would be completely cut off by the two of them. Wei Yuntian and Shui Guchong roared. They were unwilling and aggrieved. They were the representatives of the Outer Realm Heavenly List. If they lost, it would be a disgrace to the entire Outer Realm Heavenly List. Moreover, if they lost, they would also have an inner demon. Their cultivation path would be cut off from then on. Therefore, they must win this battle. They could not afford to lose. The 3 of them had a tacit understanding. The moment they were defeated, they immediately began to break through. They had been accumulating for too long. They could break through at any time. The reason why they suppressed their realms was because of the generous rewards on the Outer Realm Heavenly List. While this victory would determine their future cultivation achievements, they did not suppress their realms anymore. Instead, they broke through to defeat Zhuon. Boom, 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 boom. Suddenly, a terrifying black hole appeared in the depths of the void. Extremely terrifying tribulation energy was brewing within the black hole. Taoist Zhua, take this opportunity to escape. Once Murong Yongya and the other 2 enter the great cosmos tribulation, their strength will undergo a huge transformation. They will be much more powerful than they are now. Gu Xuandao forced himself to come to Zhuon's side and said. Black Lotus also stepped forward to persuade Zhuo Wenxian to temporarily retreat. Zhuon shook his head and said, they are so weak. Even if they succeed, what can they do? I can still kill them easily. Black Lotus and Gu Xuandao looked at each other and smiled bitterly. They stopped persuading him, but they were more worried. While the rest of the geniuses on the outer world heavenly ranking looked solemn, they avoided Zhuon as if he was the plague. Here, if Zhuon could force the top 3 monstrous geniuses of the realm beyond heaven list in such a sorry state, killing them would be no different from slaughtering dogs. How would they dare to get so close to Zhuon? At the same time, Su Zhou and Ziyu quietly arrived by Zhuon's side. Their gazes were filled with complicated emotions and fear. Zhuon's strength far exceeded their expectations. Brother Zhua, we still underestimated you, Su Zhou said with a complicated tone. Zhuon nodded expressionlessly and didn't say a word. This made Su Zhou and Ziyu a little embarrassed. Brother Zhua, according to our agreement, if you help us obtain the map fragment, we will fulfill your request, Su Zhou said in a low voice. Zhuon pondered for a moment and continued. I can give you the map fragment, but I might have to change my request. Su Zhou and Ziyu frowned. They didn't expect Zhuon to change his request at the last minute. But they also understood that Zhuon was indeed qualified to make other requests of them. As long as it wasn't too excessive, they could only accept it. Zhuon, aren't you going a little too far? We already agreed on it, but now you want to change it at the last minute? Ziyu said unhappily. Su Zhou hurriedly stopped Ziyu and asked calmly, tell us. Zhuon said calmly, my request isn't too excessive. According to your request, if I give you the map fragment, you intend to help me break through the great calamity of heaven and earth, right? Right now, I'm confident that I can break through the great calamity of heaven and earth in Wujin Mountain Range. So, this request is equivalent to nothing. You only need to change this request to help me break through to the middle stage of the great calamity of heaven and earth. Su Zhou breathed a sigh of relief. His calm face finally recovered. He smiled and said, so that's your request. Of course, we agree to it. It won't even be a problem for you to break through to the late stage of the great calamity of heaven and earth. Ziyu's expression also improved. She said calmly, then you can give us the map fragment now, right? Your mission has been completed. There's nothing else for you to do. Zhuowen shook his head and said, I can't give it to you right now. With your strength, you won't be able to keep the map fragment. Wait until we leave Wujin Mountain Range. Zhuowen wasn't a 3-year-old child. His agreement with Suzhou was only a verbal agreement. If he gave them the map fragment now, and they went back on their word, wouldn't Zhuowen suffer a double loss? Zhuowen, what do you mean by this? Are you going to violate the agreement? Zi took a step forward and said aggressively. Zhuowen snorted coldly. A surge of energy rushed out through his sound waves. Ziyu groaned and retreated in a sorry state. She then sat on the ground. You're going too far. Ziyu was so angry that her face turned red. A trace of hatred flashed through her eyes. Ziyu, shut up. Suzhou stopped Ziyu and then looked at Zhuowen with a smile. Brother Zhua, don't take it to heart. Ziyu is a straightforward person. If he has something to say, he will say it directly. Zhuowen sneered but didn't say anything. Brother Zhua, I understand your considerations. How about this? We won't ask you to hand over the map fragment now, but can you take it out and let us see it? After all, we still have some doubts about the order issued by the 7 city lords, Suzhou said generously. Of course. Wen didn't mind. He waved his right hand and took out the map fragment. He waved it in front of Suzhou and then put it away. Suzhou's eyes were very sharp. He could see at a glance that the map fragment in Zhuowen's hand was indeed a completely different map fragment. Good. Zhuowen, you've done very well. Now, it's best for you to avoid the limelight. Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, and Shui Guchong are about to break through. You won't be a match for the 3 of them after they break through. Suzhou warned with a serious expression. No need. A loser will always be a loser. So what if the 3 of them break through to Qinkuan tribulation? They won't affect me at all. Zhuowen shook his head. Suzhou frowned. He felt that Zhuowen was too confident, even arrogant. The top 3 geniuses on the outer realm heavenly ranking had broken through to Qinkuan tribulation at the same time. Their fighting strength would transform. He admitted that Zhuowen's strength was indeed very terrifying, but he didn't believe that he could be the top 3 geniuses on the outer realm heavenly ranking after breaking through to Qinkuan tribulation. Zhuowen, are you joking? You better not be so arrogant. I don't care if you die, but after you die, the map fragment will fall into the hands of Murong Yongye and the other 2. At that time, Suzhou and I won't be able to get it. If you don't run, then give the map fragment to us now. You can do whatever you want. We won't care if you live or die. Ziyu couldn't bear it anymore. Zhuowen coldly stared at Ziyu. When did I, Zhuowen, need you to tell me what to do? Now, scram. Otherwise, I'll kill you too. Zhuo Jingyi's terrifying aura suddenly erupted. The surging torrent of stars that surrounded him began to lock onto Ziyu, as if it was ready to attack at any time. Bookmark for easy reading. Chapter 4274. Ziyu's face was pale. She couldn't help but retreat in fear. Even Murong Yongye and the other 2 weren't Zhuowen's match. He was only 5th on the Outer Realm celestial list. If Zhuowen attacked him, wouldn't he be killed in an instant? Don't be angry, Brother Zhua. Brother Ziyu spoke too quickly. I'll take him away now. Zhou hurriedly came to be the mediator. He pulled Ziyu away from Zhuowen. After retreating to a safe distance, the 2 of them didn't look too good. This Zhuowen doesn't know what's good for him. He defeated Murong Yongye and the other 2 who haven't broken through. Does he really think he's something? After the 3 of them break through, they'll definitely kill Zhuowen. At that time, the map fragments will have nothing to do with us, Ziyu said angrily. Suzhou's face was gloomy. Let's not act rashly. Right now, you and I aren't Zhuowen's match. If he doesn't give us the map fragments, we won't be able to take them back. I hope that Zhuowen really has the strength to deal with Murong Yongye and the other 2 after they break through. Ziyu sneered. You think too highly of him. Boom, boom. At this moment, the sky above the abyssal bone wasteland was filled with terrifying tribulations. All kinds of tribulations descended from the black hole. Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, and Shui Guchong went through their tribulations almost at the same time. endless tribulations completely drowned their figures, making it impossible for the surrounding people to see the specific situation inside the tribulations. Zhuowen stood silently on the other side with his hands behind his back. He calmly watched the tribulations of the three people and secretly shook his head. The tribulations of the three people were much more terrifying than the tribulations of ordinary cultivators. But in Zhuowen's eyes, it wasn't enough. It was only a little stronger than the tribulations of his ancient star transformation. Clang! After the black hole in the depths of the void sent down the last tribulation, the rolling dark clouds in the sky receded. The black hole closed, and the entire sky returned to its original blue color. In midair, three incomparably huge worlds faintly appeared. They were three Qian-Kuan worlds. Under these three Qian-Kuan worlds, the three figures were like gods who had descended to the mortal world. They were full of auras and majestic auras. What a powerful Qian-Kuan world! Lian and Gu Xuandao looked at each other with fear in their eyes. The Qian-Kuan world, formed by Murong Yongye, and the other two was much stronger than the two of them. If the two of them were to fight against any one of them, they would probably be killed instantly. The three of them are probably invincible existences within the great tribulation of heaven and earth. It's almost impossible for cultivators of the great tribulation of heaven and earth to be a match for them. Zhou's expression changed drastically, and his eyes were filled with worry. With the combined strength of Murong Yongye and the other two, they could fight against an early-stage Dharma plane cultivator. Zhuowen, your sins are grave. You forced us to break through the universe tribulation. Tell me, how do you want to die? Rong Yongye's eyes were extremely cold. The reward for being the first on the outer realm celestial ranking was too generous. He had suppressed his realm for so many years, but now it was all broken by Zhuowen. He wanted to cut Zhuowen into pieces. Wei Yuntian and Shui Guchong were also brimming with killing intent. They had the same thoughts as Murong Yongye. So much nonsense. Zhuowen said coolly, "You're courting death." Shui Guchong roared and charged towards Zhuowen with his huge Qian-Kuan world. He had long hated Zhuowen to the core. Now he just wanted to end this arrogant and ignorant guy. It's better if the three of you work together. Zhuowen looked at Shui Guchong, who was getting closer and closer, and reminded them, "Do you still think I'm as strong as I was before my breakthrough? After my breakthrough, my strength has increased by a lot. Now, it's easy for me to kill you." Shui Guchong sneered, and the killing intent in his eyes intensified. He was naturally angry that this guy was still looking down on him. "I've warned you. If you don't listen, then you can only die." One was expressionless. He pointed his sword finger at his glabella, and a blazing golden light shot into the sky. Whoosh! A soul sword essence was released by Zhuowen. It pierced through the sky. Zhuowen had infused this soul sword essence with early-stage cosmic Dharma power, and it was enough to kill Shui Guchong. The soul sword essence swept across the sky and collided with Shui Guchong in the blink of an eye. The Qian-Kuan world that the Bloodbone worshipper was so proud of was nothing in the face of this spiritual soul sword intent. It shattered with a bang. The soul sword essence pierced through the universe world and pierced Shui Guchong's glabella. Ci. At that moment, the surface of the soul sword essence burned with golden flames. This was the Dharma flame. It burned Shui Guchong to ashes. After killing Shui Guchong, the soul sword essence continued to fly across the sky. Its next target was Murong Yongye and Wei Yuntian, who were watching coldly from a distance. Blood Shui Guchong died so suddenly that the two of them did not even have time to react before the soul sword essence reached them. The soul sword essence of early-stage cosmic Dharma power was so powerful that even an early-stage cosmic Dharma power would be severely injured if hit by it. Moreover, the two of them had just broken through the Qian-Kuan tribulation. The two universe worlds overlapped in front of them, but they were as fragile as paper. They were burned to ashes by the Dharma flame on the surface of the soul sword essence. Dharma flame. How can this soul attack have Dharma flame? Murong Yongye and Wei Yun Tian hurriedly retreated. They did not care about the backlash from the destruction of the universe worlds and fled like crazy. Their eyes were filled with deep fear and despair. Could it be that this person's soul has reached the level of a cosmic Dharma power? How can there be such a perverted person? Murong Yongye cursed in his heart. He could not help but turn to look at the figure who had been standing in the same spot since the beginning. At that moment, he finally understood the great gap between him and this person. It was a gap that made people despair. "It's no use running away," Zhuo said. There was a cold smile on Wen's face. He slowly stretched out his right hand and gently grasped the void. In an instant, the soul sword essence that was chasing after Murong Yongye and Wei Yuntian exploded. The rolling Dharma flame swept out like a wave. It was so fast that it caught up with Murong Yongye and Wei Yuntian in an instant. No matter how strong a person was, he was still as weak as an ant in front of the Dharma flame. The Dharma flame gradually disappeared. Murong Yongye and Wei Yuntian were nowhere to be seen. They had been burned into nothingness by the Dharma flame. Their bodies and souls had been destroyed. The endless Dharma flame surged and spread. Yin Yushan and the other geniuses, who were originally the closest, were caught in the crossfire. They did not even have time to react before they were swallowed by the Dharma flame and turned into nothingness. Weak. They are really too weak. Is this the level of the top 3 on the outer world list? Zhuan shook his head and said lightly. His voice was not loud, but it was like the power of heaven, exploding in the ears of the people around him. The surroundings of the Blackbone Wilderness were silent. There was only the sound of people sucking in the air. While the onlookers looked at Zhuan again, their eyes were full of horror and fear. Chapter 4275. Is there anyone else who wants to kill me? After Zhuan defeated Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, and Shui Guchong in one move, he slowly turned his head and looked at the other geniuses on the Outer Realm leaderboard. You must be joking. You're so handsome and heroic. How can we compare to you? It's even more impossible for us to come and kill you. That's right. I don't know which bastard dared to provoke a genius like fellow Zhuo. They really don't know what they're talking about. After one looked around, no one dared to look him in the eye. They all retreated and tried their best to explain with mocking smiles on their faces. Shuzhou and Ziyu's gazes were especially complicated. They had underestimated Zhuan once again. This person was too powerful. He was even more monstrous than Sakyamuni. Since you're not here to kill me, then disappear from my sight now. I'll give you 3 breaths of time. If there's anyone else in front of me, I'll kill them without mercy. Wen's voice was like a large bell. Rolling sound waves wrapped in terrifying killing intent resounded between heaven and earth. The geniuses on the Outer Realm leaderboard, who originally felt great pressure, sighed in their hearts and fled in panic. Fellow Zhu, you can stay. Just as Zhuan was about to leave, Zhuan's voice came, making him stop helplessly and go to Zhuan's side. Thank you for the reminder. Zhuan cupped his fists and smiled. Zhuan waved his hand helplessly and said, Fellow Zhuo, you're too polite. If I knew that you were so powerful, why would I do something unnecessary? I'm not an unreasonable person. I won't forget your good intentions. How about this? I'm willing to give you one of my incomplete map spots. After the big hunt is over, we'll contact each other again. Zhuan smiled. His impression of Zhuan was good. Although Zhuan also came for the incomplete map, he was a person who adhered to morality and had a bottom line. Brother Zhuo, it's great that you're fine. It's really a case of a scholar being away for 3 days and being treated differently. Brother Zhuo, you're getting further and further away. You've left us far behind. Suzhou greeted him with a face full of smiles. Perpiu followed behind him with a look of disdain. Zhuo Wenjiao nodded and said, If there's nothing else, then please leave. I intend to cultivate here. He didn't have a deep relationship with Suzhou and Ziyu. When the two of them invited him to cooperate at the Immortal Pavilion, they didn't have much sincerity. They even arranged for experts to secretly spy on him at the Immortal Pavilion. In addition, the two of them didn't care if he lived or died, and only cared about the map fragment. Zhuowen didn't want to have too much contact with the two of them. Suzhou was a bit embarrassed. Instead, Ziyu beside him was a bit unhappy. Fortunately, Suzhou stopped her in time and didn't let Ziyu ruin things. If that's the case, Brother Zhuo, we'll take our leave first. Suzhou's tone was flat as he left with Ziyu. Daoist Zhuo, you've offended the top 5 geniuses of the Outer Realm Heavenly List, especially Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, and Shui Guchong. The 3 of them have extremely strong backgrounds. Now that you've killed them, the forces behind them won't let you off. Gaden's mouth was a bit bitter. He reminded in a low voice. This time, the geniuses of the Outer Realm Heavenly List didn't come here alone. They were all escorted by experts. For example, this time, I was escorted here by my master. He's a late-stage Dharma, plain expert. And the experts behind Murong Yongye and the others are probably even stronger than my master. Daoist Zhuo, you must be careful. After he finished speaking, Gaden took his leave, leaving behind Zhuo one who was deep in thought. Look, the geniuses of the Outer Realm Heavenly List weren't easy to deal with. Now, almost everyone knew that the map fragment was with him, and he had killed so many people. Only if he returned to Diluo City, he would immediately become the target of public criticism. Although it was said that Zhuo Wen's current strength was strong enough, but in the face of so many cosmic Dharma adepts at once, it was still impossible for him to escape. I must break through the universe tribulation as soon as possible. This is the only way to escape. Zhuo said. Zhuo Wen's eyes flashed with a wise light. He had already thought of a plan to escape. Then, Zhuowen spent half a day setting up a complex combination array around the Blackbone Barren Land. Every combination array was at the first sky of the Eternal Realm. In the inside the Blackbone Barren Land, almost no one had the ability to break into the Blackbone Barren Land, which was covered by the combination array. Cloth after setting up the array, Zhuowen asked Gu Xuandao, Black Lotus, and Shan Lingyun to protect him. Then, he sat cross-legged in the center of the Blackbone Barren Land and began to absorb the surging evil qi in the depths of the Blackbone Barren Land for his own use. While Zhuowen was cultivating crazily, the 7 big cities outside the Blackbone Barren Land were in a complete mess. During the Big Hunt, all the contestants who participated in it were given entry jade tokens. In fact, the entry jade tokens also recorded the contestants' vital signs. This entry jade token had 2 types of jade tokens. Only then was it a complete jade token. Clang. In the beginning, the 7 deputy city lords of the 7 big cities gave the contestants the main jade tokens. As for the secondary jade tokens, they were taken out of the Blackbone Barren Land and handed over to the jade token pavilions of the city lords. When Zhuowen slaughtered most of the teams in the Blackbone Barren Land, the jade tokens kept in the jade token pavilions of the 7 big cities were all shattered. Many fragments were scattered all over the floor of the jade token pavilions. 7. The managers of the jade token pavilions of the big cities were so frightened that they rushed into the city lord's mansion and reported the matter to their respective city lords. 1. Suddenly, the 7 city lords gathered in the city lord's mansion of Zhaotian City again. However, their faces were extremely ugly. This was because they had a private discussion and found that their situations were very similar. All the secondary jade tokens in the jade token pavilions were shattered. 2. Zhao frowned and said, Ladies and gentlemen, I've already learned that most of the secondary cards kept in our 7 cities' jade card pavilions have been shattered. Only a very small portion of the secondary cards are still considered complete. What do you think is the situation? Ling said. Luo stood up and said in a low voice, Do you still need to say what the situation is? The secondary jade tokens are closely related to the main jade token. The shattering of the secondary jade token means that the main jade token is also shattered. The shattering of the main jade token also means that the owner of the main jade token has fallen. Impossible. Doesn't this mean that most of the contestants have fallen just now? In a Blackbone Barren Land, who would have such terrifying strength? Fun Xin, the city lord of Burning Sky City, shook his head and refuted. Therefore, The other city lords were also discussing and expressing their own opinions. Most of them were puzzled and confused about the phenomenon that happened in the Jade Token pavilions. Although in the Big Hunt in the past, there were often cases of Jade Tokens shattering, but it was only a small number. After all, it was inevitable that there would be deaths and injuries in the Big Hunt. This was a normal phenomenon. But now, almost at the same time, most of the Jade Tokens were shattered. This was too strange. Chapter 4276. Everyone, haven't you all overlooked something? Suddenly, Chen Zhao, the governor of Clear Sky City, spoke. The other governors, who were originally discussing animatedly, quieted down and looked at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao took a deep breath and said, "Didn't we issue an order according to Lady Handsome Girl's request? The order is to kill Zhuowen. What do you think the participants of the Great Hunt will do after receiving this order?" The pupils of the other city lords shrunk slightly. Among them, Ling Luo frowned slightly and said, "City Lord Chen Zhao, could it be that you want to say that many contestants joined hands to kill Zhuowen, but were instead killed by him? Although I don't know who Zhuowen is, I don't believe that he has the ability to kill so many participants in an instant. Unless he is one of the top 3 geniuses on the heavenly list, but they don't have to do that." Chen Zhao sighed and said, "Actually, I don't believe it either, but this is the highest possibility. Also, I have restored an image in an undamaged Jade Token." As he spoke, Chen Zhao took out a Jade Token and poured out divine power from his palm. The Jade Token emitted a dazzling white light and then left the Jade Token. It rushed into the air and showed an image. There were monitoring restrictions set up in the Jade Token. Therefore, everything that the cultivator who wore the Jade Token saw and heard was recorded in the Jade Token. As long as the monitoring restriction was activated, any image recorded in the Jade Token could be displayed. Only the image showed the Blackbone Wasteland in the Black Gold Mountain Range. At this moment, in the center of the Blackbone Wasteland stood a calm young man. While around the young man, figures flew out and rushed toward him. They were the participants of the Great Hunt. These participants attacked the young man together without any regard for their lives and used all kinds of methods, while the young man blocked them easily and finally used some kind of soul attack. The whole image was filled with blazing golden light, and it was impossible to see what was happening inside. Clang! When the image was restored, the thousands of participants who were still alive and kicking had become a mountain of corpses. The young man was unharmed and stood silently in the same place. This person is Zhuowen. He killed most of the participants alone, although I don't know what method he used. He should be the source of all this. Chen Zhao rubbed his temples and said with a headache, "This kid is really ruthless. He almost killed all the participants. Isn't he afraid that he will become a target after the Great Hunt? I'm afraid that this kid can't leave the 7 big cities. Once he appears, he will attract the crazy revenge of the big forces." The other governors discussed and shook their heads, especially Emperor Luo, the governor of Emperor's City, Luo. Zhuowen was a contestant from D. Luo City. He knew that once this matter was spread, the experts from the other big cities would swarm into D. Luo City. It might even implicate him, the city lord. Reaching there, Ling Luo was endlessly cursing Zhuowen in his heart. He hated him so much that his teeth itched. "Don't tell anyone about this first. Wait for me to ask Lady Handsomest before we discuss it." Zhao put away the jade card and hurriedly left. Wait. When he arrived at Emperor Luo's residence, he found her interrogating the 3 people from Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion. At this moment, the 3 people from Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion were not in good condition. Their faces were pale, and there were bloodstains on their bodies. From their torn clothes and exposed wounds, it was obvious that they had been abused. June looked at Chen Zhao, who was standing outside and waiting respectfully. She waved her hand and said, "I'm satisfied with your answers. You can leave now." The 3 of them felt as if they had been pardoned. They quickly thanked her and left. "What's the matter?" Emperor Luo waved to Chen Zhao outside the door and asked indifferently. "Emperor Luo, the participants who participated in the Great Hunt suffered heavy casualties. Take a look at this. After Zhao said respectfully, he took out the Jade token and activated the recorded image in the Jade token. After the image was played, Emperor Luo's face became very serious. She whispered, "This Zhuowen is really not simple." After June finished watching the image, she asked Chun Zhao, "Are there any more recorded images of this person?" In fact, she had suspected that Yang Yuqing might have been killed by Zhuowen. However, she felt that it was too unbelievable, so she was not sure. In order to verify her hypothesis, she had asked Chun Zhao to issue that order. Her goal was actually to see how strong Zhuowen was. In the image just now, it only recorded that Zhuowen had killed the participants from the Nuwa domain. The geniuses from 100 domains did not appear to fight with Zhuowen. June knew that the geniuses on the outer realm heavenly ranking would definitely find Zhuowen. What she really wanted to see was the battle between the geniuses from the 100 domains and Zhuowen. Yes, here are the other intact Jade tokens. There are other recorded images. I'll show them to you. Chun Zhao did not dare to delay and released all the records in the remaining Jade tokens. Soon, Jun Luo saw Zhuowen fighting against Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, and Shui Guchong. Clang! After she finished watching, her eyes turned cold. She said coldly, "His cultivation level is only at the peak of the ancient star transformation, but his soul is at the level of the cosmic avatar. He's really good at hiding his strength." Naturally, Chun Zhao saw the battle in the image too. He was also shocked by Zhuowen's terrifying strength. The Outer Realm. If the top 3 Sky Prides on the Outer Realm heavenly ranking were no match for him, would it not mean that he was the real number 1 on the Outer Realm heavenly ranking? Chun Zhao, release another piece of news for me. Tell everyone about Zhuo Wen's actions in the Black Gold Mountain Range. Also, make sure to leak this image to the public. The more people know about it, the better. Chun Zhao nodded. He put the Jade token away and left Jun Luo's residence. After Chun Zhao left, Jun Luo glanced at Shunyu, who was standing on her left, and said, "Shunyu, do you know Zhuowen?" Earlier, when the image appeared, Jun Luo sensed a sudden murderous intent from Shunyu. Although he concealed it very quickly, it did not escape Jun Luo's eyes. Lady Handsomeness, this subordinate indeed knows this Zhuowen. It's like this. He's related to Duan Jiping. Shunyu said. Shunyu told Jun Luo about his encounter with Zhuowen and Duan Jiping in the Witchcraft Boundary. Of course, he left out many details. For example, he did not reveal that Zhuowen had severely damaged his Imperial Ties seal. Naturally, he was selfish. The Imperial Ties seal was definitely an extraordinary artifact. If Jun Luo was the one who told Jun Luo about it, he would not have a share in it. He wanted to kill Zhuowen himself and take the Imperial Ties seal for himself. He's Duan Jiping's accomplice. That's even more reason for him to die. When he returns to Di Luo's city and becomes the target of public criticism, he'll be in a life and death crisis. By then, Duan Jiping will definitely not stand by and watch. Once Duan Jiping appears, we'll take him down immediately. Then, we'll really have done a great service, Jun Luo said with a cold smile. What everyone did not know was that in the core of the 100 territories far away, there was an Archean Heavenly Academy that had existed since the beginning of time. At that moment, there were many stone tablets standing in a square in the Archean Heavenly Academy. Among the stone tablets, there was a stone tablet that recorded the heavenly ranking list. At the stone tablet of the heavenly ranking list, there were drastic changes to the top 3 names. Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, and Shui Guchong's names disappeared and were replaced by Zhuowen, Suzhou, and Ziyu. The top 3 are dead? Who's this Zhuowen? He's actually ranked first on the heavenly ranking list. The changes in the stone tablet of the heavenly ranking list immediately attracted the attention of many Archean Heavenly Academy disciples in the square. They gathered in front of the stone tablet and pointed at it. They were all curious about who Zhuowen was. Chapter 4277. As expected of the genius personally chosen by Master Yuansheng. Junior Shirtian, you've broken the record of the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy the moment you arrived. I'm really impressed. Hee, that's for sure. In the countless years of our immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy, there are only a few geniuses who can be personally recruited by a sage master. Junior Shirtian's future is limitless. A group of people clustered around an imposing young man as they slowly walked in from outside the square. Green, he was extremely handsome, with a head of golden hair that hung down to his shoulders. The strangest thing was that between the young man's eyebrows, there was a golden stripe that was faintly discernible, as if it was his third eye. It was strange and mysterious. Here this person was Sakyamuni, who had just joined the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy. The group of people clustered around him were all disciples of the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy. They were all senior brothers who had joined the academy earlier than Sakyamuni. However, these arrogant senior brothers were speaking to Sakyamuni in a fawning manner, as if they wanted to gain Sakyamuni's favor and attention. On the other hand, Sakyamuni's gaze was calm as he looked straight ahead. He turned a blind eye to the fawning senior brothers around him. Emperor, these senior brothers were not annoyed by Shirtian's attitude. Instead, they felt that it was very normal. After all, he was the personal disciple of a sage master. Just his status alone was far higher than ordinary disciples like them. Their purpose of fawning over Sakyamuni was actually to use Sakyamuni as a medium to contact Master Yuansheng. Emperor Shirtian naturally knew the purpose of these senior brothers. Therefore, he did not really want to pay attention to these people. The group of people walked into the square and were quickly attracted by the people in the center of the square who were discussing animatedly. The top 3 names on the outer realm heavenly ranking have disappeared? Could it be that the 3 fellows who had been on it all year round have all broken through? One of the senior fellow apprentices following Sakyamuni naturally noticed a change in the ranking on the stone tablet of the outer realm heavenly list, and he couldn't help but ask in surprise. He knew that Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, and Shui Guchong could have broken through the Qiankun tribulation a long time ago, but they didn't do so because they wanted to get the top 3 rewards. Only yes, they looked down on the 3 of them from the bottom of their hearts. For the sake of a mere reward for the top 3 of the outer realm rankings, they had constantly suppressed their realms and did not seek to improve themselves. In reality, it was a slow suicide for them. They had severed their future path of cultivation and even brought about an inner demon that was difficult to make up for. Now, because the names of these 3 people suddenly disappeared, they naturally thought that these 3 people must have chosen to break through. Who is this Zhuowen? What an unfamiliar name. I've never seen it on the Beyond Realm heavenly ranking before. Another senior fellow apprentice beside Shirtian was quite interested in the number 1 Zhuowen, and he chuckled. However, they didn't pay too much attention to it. They had once entered the top 5 of the outer realm heavenly ranking, and now they were disciples of the Archean Heavenly Tao Academy. Therefore, they still somewhat looked down on the geniuses of the outer realm Heavenly Tao Academy. After all, after joining the Archean Heavenly Tao Academy, their horizons had broadened too much. A mere outer realm Heavenly Tao Academy naturally didn't take them to heart. However, when they looked at Sakyamuni, they were surprised to find that this monstrous junior fellow apprentice, who had always been calm and indifferent to everything, was now standing still as if he had been petrified. His calm eyes were filled with inexplicable emotions as he stared at the number 1 of the outer realm heavenly ranking. Junior fellow apprentice, what's wrong with you? Do you know this Zhuowen? One of the senior fellow apprentices was very observant. He immediately noticed the change in Sakyamuni's emotions and couldn't help but ask. Sakyamuni withdrew his gaze. There was a complicated and strange look in his eyes. He then shook his head and said, I don't know him. Senior fellow apprentices, if there's anything else, let's talk about it another day. I'll take my leave first. After saying that, Sakyamuni didn't care about these senior fellow apprentices who were deliberately trying to curry favor with him and directly left the square. Only, however, these senior fellow apprentices didn't notice that the moment Sakyamuni turned around, his eyes were filled with a trace of coldness, and the corners of his mouth revealed an inexplicable smile. Interesting. Zhuowen, I originally thought that even after entering the 100 Outer Realms, you could only fade into the crowd. I didn't expect your progress to not be slow either. No, in the end, you can't compare to me. The speed of my progress is far beyond your imagination, and my pace of progress will only be faster. Zhuowen, in the end, you're just my stepping stone. The current you isn't qualified to be compared to me. An ant will always be an ant in the end. Sakyamuni murmured in a low voice. His eyes were filled with disdain. Now, he no longer regarded Zhuowen as an opponent. He had a greater goal and unparalleled talent. In the future, he would be invincible in the world. Of course, if he could meet Zhuowen, he would naturally take action and personally kill this former opponent. If he didn't meet Zhuowen, he wouldn't take the initiative to find Zhuowen. In his eyes, Zhuowen was only an ant now. So how could he possibly lower himself and take the initiative to look for trouble with an ant? At the same time, in the Nuar realm, the 7 cities around the Golden Mountain Range were in complete chaos. Clang! The 7 city lords followed the order of the woman and released the video of what Zhuowen had done in the Golden Mountain Range. After that, all the cultivators in the 7 cities knew that Zhuowen had slaughtered most of the contestants in the Golden Mountain Range. Even Murong Yongye, Wei Yintian, and Shui Guchong, who were in the top 3 of the Outer Realm leaderboard, were killed. This completely shocked all the cultivators in the 7 cities. Clang! The experts behind the slaughtered contestants were all furious. They all gathered outside the city lord's mansion of Clear Sky City, demanding an explanation from the 7 city lords. Although they hated Zhuowen to the core, they didn't lose their minds. They also knew that if the 7 city lords hadn't issued the order at the last minute, none of the contestants would have chosen to be Zhuowen's enemy, which led to the current tragedy. Outside the city lord's mansion, powerful figures gathered in the open space outside the mansion. They were basically the experts behind the dead contestants. They were also the people in charge of leading the contestants to participate in the big hunt. Now, all the contestants they brought were dead. For the forces behind them, this was a huge loss. Naturally, they wouldn't give up so easily. At the gate of the city lord's mansion, the 7 city lords kept comforting the crowd. Their foreheads were already covered in cold sweat. There were so many experts, many of whom were in the cosmic form. Even the 7 city lords felt great pressure when they suddenly came to the city lord's mansion to demand an explanation. 7 city lords, this time, our disciples have all died in the Golden Mountain Range. You can't escape responsibility. If you don't give us a satisfactory explanation, we won't leave today. Yes, it's all because of your order that led to this tragedy. You are all responsible. Don't try to push all the blame to Zhuowen. Outside the city lord's mansion, many experts looked cold. They were all talking and looking at the 7 city lords with unfriendly eyes. At this moment, the 7 city lords were in a difficult position. Almost all the powerful forces in the Nuar realm were gathered here. They couldn't afford to offend so many forces. Bookmark for easy reading. Chapter 4278. Just as the tension between the two sides reached its peak, an extremely terrifying aura suddenly erupted from the governor's mansion, instantly suppressing the aura of all the experts outside the mansion. Even more, some of the weaker, unlucky fellows were even forced back by this aura and almost fell to the ground. What a powerful aura! This should be an expert at the pinnacle of the Dharma phase of the universe. When did such a terrifying expert appear in the 7 major cities? After sensing this aura that was far stronger than theirs, the people who were originally excited felt as if a basin of cold water had been poured over them, and their hands and feet turned cold. Although there were some experts at the Dharma phase of the universe among them, the strongest was only at the middle stage of the Dharma phase of the universe. The gap between them and the pinnacle of the Dharma phase of the universe was too big. How to put it bluntly, if this pinnacle of the Dharma phase of the universe made a move, all of them together might not be a match for him. Everyone, I am the new June of the Nuwa clan. The order issued by the 7 governors is my idea. Now, do you have any objections? If you do, I will compensate you on behalf of the Nuwa clan." A cold female voice came from the depths of the governor's mansion. Everyone, when they heard this, they only felt cold all over and fear in their hearts. They did not expect that the new June of the Nuwa clan, one of the 3 leaders of the Nuwa clan, would intervene in this matter, which made them feel bitter in their hearts. If it was just the 7 city lords' intention, they would naturally continue to make trouble. However, they did not dare to make trouble with the Nuwa clan. After all, the Nuwa clan was the dominator of the Nuwa realm. Wouldn't it be suicide to make trouble with them? I know that you are very angry, and this is also something I did not expect. Zhuan is only at the pinnacle of the ancient star transformation, but his strength is so terrifying. But you should also think about it from another perspective. This man is ruthless and vicious. Since he has such strength, there is no need for him to kill people, but he still did it. This shows that he does not care about the Nuwa realm at all. In the Nuwa realm, this man has committed so many crimes. Can this man be forgiven? Everyone, don't worry. The Nuwa clan will compensate you for your losses after this matter. But this Zhuan must die, so you need to cooperate with me to capture this kid. June's tone became much gentler. She was well aware of the method of using the carrot and stick. After these few words, the unhappiness in everyone's hearts was resolved by a lot. The reason why they came to the city lord's mansion to cause a ruckus was because they wanted the 7 city lords to compensate them accordingly. After all, the dead could not be brought back to life. Their disciples had died in the Black Gull Mountain range, and this was something that could not be changed. Naturally, they wanted to maximize their benefits. As for Zhuan, even if the handsome girl didn't say anything, they wouldn't let him off so easily. Regardless of whether he was forced to do so or for other reasons, he shouldn't have killed their disciples. Since he had killed them, he had to bear the consequences of their revenge. Seeing that everyone outside the mansion had settled down, the 7 city lords also breathed a sigh of relief. At this moment, 3 extremely terrifying auras erupted from outside Clear Sky City. Then, they charged into the city with extreme speed. This is as soon as the 3 terrifying auras arrived. All the cultivators in Clear Sky City were affected. Most of the cultivators couldn't withstand the auras and knelt on the ground, resisting the suppression of the auras with difficulty. This is another peak Dharma power expert of the universe, and there are 3 of them. Outside the City Lord's mansion, many of the experts' faces changed. They could clearly feel that the 3 auras were no weaker than the handsome girl. What frightened them even more was that the 3 auras were heading towards the City Lord's mansion. Obviously, the 3 terrifying experts' target was the City Lord's mansion of Clear Sky City. Swoosh! Swoosh! As the 3 auras approached, the handsome girl in the depths of the City Lord's mansion could no longer sit still. She flew out of the mansion and floated in midair. The people outside the mansion finally saw the handsome girl's true face. The handsome girl was very beautiful and had a graceful figure. The only difference was that the colorful snake tail was circling in midair, indicating her identity as a member of the Nuwa clan. At this moment, there were 2 men following behind the handsome girl. One of them was wearing a feather robe and a tall crown, while the other was carrying a sword case on his back. They were Xinyu and Jianluo. What's going on? There are 3 peak Dharma power experts of the universe. Which universe did they come from? Xinyu's face turned gloomy, and there was fear in his eyes. Even Jianluo, who was a man of few words, looked pale. The handsome girl did not say anything. Her beautiful eyes, which were as clear as gemstones, stared into the distance. Over there, in the distant sky, 3 rainbow lights flew over rapidly. They did not conceal their auras, and they were fearless and overbearing. Not long after, the 3 streaks of light stopped not far from the woman, revealing 3 figures. 3. There were 2 men and 1 woman. Among the 2 men, one of them was a middle-aged man who was riding on a cloud. There was a huge cloud dragon rolling under his feet, and he looked like an immortal. Another one, One of them was an old man who was holding an everlasting lamp. His white eyebrows reached his chest. The other woman looked like she was in her 30s, but no one knew how old she was. She wore a blood-red robe, and her fair face paired with her bright red lips actually possessed a bewitching beauty. Especially her eyes, they seemed to captivate one's soul, and as long as one met her gaze, they would involuntarily sink into them. The handsome girl did not pay much attention to them at first. However, when she saw the insignia on their clothes, her eyes narrowed. Old Man Ming Dang from the Divine Spark universe, Shui Mei from the Bloodthorn universe, and Yun Xinzi from the Cloud Dragon universe. The handsome girl muttered to herself and reported the names and backgrounds of the three people. Her voice was not loud, but everyone present was an expert. Naturally, they heard her clearly. What? The three of them are from the Divine Spark universe, the Bloodthorn universe, and the Cloud Dragon universe? As expected, when the geniuses from 100 domains entered the Black Gold Mountain range, we should have known that there must be someone protecting them. The experts from the super domains have indeed come. Many powerhouses looked at the three figures standing in front of the beautiful woman with fear in their eyes as they discussed softly. No, speaking of the super domains behind the three of them, their powerful cultivation alone was enough to make them look up to them. What do you mean by this? The handsome girl's face was gloomy. She could naturally see that the three of them did not come with good intentions. Not only did they not restrain their aura, it was showing signs of becoming more and more rampant. What do we mean? Handsome girl, don't you know what's going on? The beautiful girl in a blood-red robe licked her lips and stared coldly at the handsome girl with her blood-red eyes. Her tone was as if she was questioning her. Is it because of that Zhuowen? The handsome girl asked with a frown. Don't play dumb. Wei Yuntian is the top genius of our Cloud Dragon universe. You contributed greatly to his death in the Black Gold Mountain range. Yun Xinzi of the Cloud Dragon universe sneered at the handsome girl. The three of you, I'm sure you've seen the video. The murderer who killed the top 3 of the Outer World list is Zhuowen. It has nothing to do with me. Now, we are actually on the same side. Zhuowen has also killed many people in my Nuwa clan. The handsome girl said in a low voice. Chapter 4279. Handsome girl, do you really think the three of us are fools? If it weren't for you, Moron Yongye and the others wouldn't have gone after Zhuowen. They wouldn't have died because of this. Old Lamp's wrinkled face was deeply wrinkled, and his voice was filled with vicissitudes and malice. Female, her pretty face was slightly pale. The three people in front of her were not ordinary, and they were stronger than her. It was easy to imagine how much pressure she was under. Would it be possible for the three of you to come to my residence for a chat? I will definitely give you a satisfactory place to settle your issues. The woman seemed to have made up her mind as she spoke. Old Man Ming Dang, Blood Beauty, and Yun Xinzi looked at each other. They also understood what she meant. They nodded and followed her into the city lord's mansion. They wanted to see what kind of explanation this woman was going to give them. Or perhaps the others were afraid of the Nuwa clan and didn't dare to offend her. But the three of them all had backgrounds that were superior to the Nuwa clan, and they were not afraid of this beautiful woman at all. If worst came to worst, they could just go on a rampage and kill her, and the Nuwa clan might not even dare to pursue the matter. Outside the mansion, many experts gathered in the open space looked at each other, but they didn't leave. Their disciples had all died in the Golden Crow Mountain range. Their only thought now was to wait for Zhuowen to come out and then kill him all in one fell swoop to avenge their disciples' deaths. But now it was the 7 city lords who controlled the seal of the Golden Crow Mountain range. He was waiting for the 7 city lords to work together to open the seal and release Zhuowen from the Golden Crow Mountain range, so that they could attack that little bastard and crush him into dust. Guard the 7 city lords outside the mansion all had their own ulterior motives, each with their own thoughts. They knew very well how powerful the Divine Spark domain, the Cloud Dragon domain, and the Bloodthorn domain were. They were all super-grade domains, one whole level higher than the Nuwa domain. Mu the deaths of Rong Yongye, Shuiguchong and Wei Yuntian were actually the result of the Nuwa clan and the 7 cities offending the powerful forces behind the 3. Since the female lead had called them into the mansion, she must be planning to negotiate and appease their anger. If a negotiation failed, they wouldn't dare to seek revenge even if the 3 slaughtered their 7 cities. Now furthermore, the 7 of them were actually prepared for the worst. Once the negotiation failed, they would immediately abandon the city and flee for their lives. Although it was said that the 7 great cities in the Golden Crow Mountain Range were developed by the 7 of them after spending countless manpower and resources. But none of this was as precious as their lives. Time, minutes, and seconds passed. About 6 hours later, the people outside the mansion realized that the originally hostile aura inside the mansion had been reduced by a lot in an instant. After a while, 6 figures flashed out of the manor. The 3 people at the front were naturally Old Man Ming Deng, Blood Beauty, and Yun Shinzi. Meanwhile, Handsome Nu arrived late with God Bless, and Jian Luo with a grim look on her face. The 7 city lords heaved a sigh of relief in their hearts when they saw both sides walk out peacefully. They understood that this meant that the negotiations between the 2 sides should have been preliminary successful. From judging from the extremely unsightly expression on the woman's face, it wasn't difficult to discern that the woman and the Nuwa clan behind her had probably paid an extremely heavy price this time. Handsome Nu, don't forget the condition that you promised the 3 of us. From today onwards, we won't pursue your crime of killing Murong Yongya and the others. Old Man Ming Deng said calmly. Female June clenched her fists tightly. However, she still suppressed her anger and said in a muffled voice, Don't worry. Since the Great Clan Supreme has agreed to this, we naturally won't break our promise. Since the misunderstanding between us has been resolved, you don't have to interfere with Zhuowen's matter anymore. We'll capture him and bring him back to Nuwa City to be dealt with. Blood Beauty licked her red lips and said coldly, No. Since you're the one who caused all this, you should capture Zhuowen alive and bring him to the 3 of us. Then, the 3 of us will deal with him personally. June's pupils constricted. She bit her lips and said in a low voice, The 3 of you. This child must be handed over to our Nuwa clan. To tell you the truth, he was once an accomplice of a wanted criminal of our Nuwa clan. We must take him away. It was very likely that Zhuowen had obtained the inheritance and treasures of the Saint Lord of 7 emotions and 6 desires. This was the final goal that the Nuwa clan had been planning for so many years. How could the woman just hand over Zhuowen? And, moreover, the Great Clan Supreme had personally ordered this matter. There was no way the woman would hand Zhuowen over to Old Man, Ming Deng, and the others. So what? Handsome Nu, all of this is because of you. If you don't capture Zhuowen personally and hand him over to us, don't blame us for reporting this matter to the higher-ups of our clan. I think it's best if you think carefully before taking action. Yun Shinzi said indifferently. Said with that, Yun Shinzi followed Old Man, Ming Deng, and Blood Beauty out of the city lord's manor. Although the 3 of them were very displeased that Zhuowen had killed Murong Yongya, Wei Yuntian, and Bloodbone Chong, they didn't particularly care about Zhuowen. In their hearts, Zhuowen might be a peerless genius, but in the end, he was just an ant who couldn't even withstand the great universal tribulation. This child had killed so many contestants and angered everyone. Once he left Gold Crow Mountain Range, how could he possibly escape with his life? The 3 of them were very smart. They used the deaths of Murong Yongya and the others as an excuse to force the woman to hand Zhuowen over to them as soon as she captured him. He wasn't worried that the woman would kidnap Zhuowen and return to the Nuwa realm alone. After all, the Nuwa clan couldn't afford to offend the 3 of them. What the 3 of them were truly worried about were the experts from the other super realms who were still hiding in the shadows. They were also eyeing Zhuowen covetously. Woman June was so angry that her entire body trembled. However, she didn't dare to do anything. This time, she had really shot herself in the foot. She could only look at the backs of Old Man Ming Deng and the others in despair. They've gone too far. They're experts from the super realms after all. They have a certain status and identity. How dare they bully others with their power? Shinyu said through gritted teeth. Lady June, what do you plan to do? Are we really going to do as they asked? Jian Luo was rather calm. He looked at the woman and asked in a low voice. Woman June frowned and sighed softly. We have to capture Zhuowen and hand him over to the three of them. However, before we hand him over to them, we have to snatch the inheritance of the Saint Lord of 7 emotions and 6 desires from Zhuowen first. As far as I know, there are many experts from the super realms who have infiltrated Gold Crow Mountain Range. Their goal is very similar. They're all here for a piece of the map. As long as we don't touch the map, the 3 of them won't pursue the matter, even if they know that we've tampered with it. Chapter 4280. The 7 of you. Activate the seal of the Golden Crow Mountain Range and teleport all the contestants out. The lady slowly landed in front of the City Lord's mansion and said to the 7 city lords in front of her. She said. Then, she looked at the group of experts outside the mansion and said, Everyone, the teleportation seal of the Golden Crow Mountain Range will be activated soon. When the time comes, all the survivors in the Golden Crow Mountain Range will be teleported out. Please keep an eye out for Zhuowen. Whoever can find Zhuowen, the Nuwa clan will do him a favor. If anyone is able to capture Zhuowen personally, you can make a reasonable request to the Nuwa clan. The moment she said this, everyone was shocked. The Nuwa clan was the ruler of the Nuwa domain. A favor from such a huge force was extremely precious to them. Most importantly, what moved them was the request at the end. This request could be made according to their own wishes. The value of this request was much higher than a favor. The Lady Handsomeness was truly heroic. We will not shirk from this. Even if the lady didn't say it, we would still find Zhuowen and settle the score. Now that the lady is so generous, we will definitely capture Zhuowen alive and hand him over to you. Everyone was speechless. The crowd was excited, and all of them were confident. It was as if Zhuowen was already a turtle in a jar and was no threat at all. Contrary. On the other hand, many of the experts present had already started to have their own plans. All of them were considering how to be the first to find Zhuowen amidst the chaos and capture him alive. Zhuowen is dead for sure this time. In a remote area outside the mansion, Yu Ji, together with Luan Yu and Zhou Yu, looked at the large number of experts around them. Their faces were slightly pale. There were many experts here, and there was no lack of experts at the Cosmic Dharma stage. There was also a peak Cosmic Dharma stage expert like the lady. No, speaking of Zhuowen, even if he was also at the pinnacle of the Dharma laws of the universe, he would have to pay a great price to escape. Although Zhuowen was extremely talented and invincible at the same level. So what? After all, his cultivation wasn't even at the World Tribulation realm. So how could he have the chance to escape from such an inescapable and hopeless situation? Luan Yu sighed softly, feeling very upset. Fortunately, we have cut ties with this kid. Otherwise, we would definitely be dragged down by this guy. Zhou Yu said with lingering fear. Although Yu Ji and Luan Yu didn't say anything, it could be seen from their expressions that they agreed with Zhou Yu's words. Coming down, under the signal of the woman, the 7 city lords walked towards the central square of Zhao Tian City. In this square, there was a transportation passage from Zhao Tian City to the Black Gold Mountain Range. However, each of the 7 giant cities had a portal like this. For example, the palace at the end of Diluo Square in Diluo City also had a portal leading to the Black Gold Mountain Range. According to the rules of the Big Hunt, at the end of the Big Hunt, each city lord had to open the portal in their respective giant cities and send out the contestants from each division. Then, based on the contestants' performance in the Big Hunt, the rankings would be determined based on the contestants' scores. This time, under the command of the woman, they closed the portals to the other 8 giant cities and only opened the portal to Zhao Tian City. The purpose was naturally to make it easier to catch Zhuowen. And after the 7 city lords had completely opened the portal to Zhao Tian City, a huge portal appeared in the sky above the square. At the same time, in the Black Gold Mountain Range, the contestants who were lucky enough to survive immediately realized that the jade pendants on their bodies were emitting a blazing white light. Under the influence of the white light, the space around them started to distort. The portal has been opened outside. We can finally leave the Black Gold Mountain Range. Whoosh! We can finally leave. We don't have to stay with that evil star anymore. Within the Black Gold Mountain Range, the contestants were all inexplicably excited after feeling the teleportation from their jade pendants. They'd long since been scared out of their wits by Zhuowen. After they fled, all of them stayed far away from the abyssal bone desolate land, as they were deeply afraid that they would be tortured and killed by Zhuo if they got too close to him. In among this group of contestants who were scared out of their wits, only a few of them were contestants from the Nuar realm who were still alive. Most of them were other geniuses on the realm beyond heaven list. The sparkling white light enveloped everyone. Then, they turned into streaks of white light and disappeared from the Black Gold Mountain Range. Brother Ziyu, don't be impulsive this time. We must first stabilize Zhuowen and then take him away from the Black Gold Mountain Range. After all, we have an agreement with him. As long as we don't go too far, he won't break his promise. In a strange black forest, Suzhou and Ziyu were both wrapped in white light. Suzhou cautiously reminded Ziyu. Ziyu's temper was too irritable. Suzhou was afraid that once Ziyu went out, she would order the expert behind him to attack Zhuowen. Brother Suzhou, don't worry. I understand. I won't act rashly. Ziyu smiled. The two of them were quickly engulfed by the white light and disappeared from the black forest. More and more white lights rushed into the sky and out of the Black Gold Mountain Range. In the center of the Blackbone Wasteland, Zhuowen was sitting cross-legged. Billows of evil energy surged out from the depths of the ground and was greedily absorbed by Zhuowen. After being refined by the primordial chant, it turned into surging energy that surged through his meridians. Suddenly, the jade pendant on Zhuowen's body began to tremble and emit a sparkling white light. The surrounding space also began to distort. Zhuowen opened his eyes and looked at the jade pendant on his body. He narrowed his eyes and said coldly, "It seems that they can't wait to teleport me out." After he finished speaking, he took out the jade pendant and used his divine power to shatter it completely. The jade pendants of Black Lotus, Gu Xuandao, and Shan Lingyun, who were originally protecting him, also emitted a white light. Zhuowen took Shan Lingyun's jade pendant and shattered it with his divine power. He then looked at Black Lotus and Gu Xuandao and said in a low voice, "The two of you, leave the Black Gold Mountain Range first. Then leave the Black Gold Mountain Range immediately. Soon, the 7 major cities will become a place of conflict. If you get involved, you will die without a doubt." Black Lotus and Gu Xuandao remained silent for a short while. They took a deep look at Zhuowen and bowed deeply to him. "Fellow Taoist Zhuo, thank you for taking care of us along the way. I will never forget your kindness." Gu Xuandao said sincerely. Black Lian looked at Zhuowen silently. She did not say a word. Her eyes were filled with complex emotions of fear, reluctance, and respect. White light. The moment the white light completely engulfed her, Black Lotus suddenly said, "Master, you must survive. I will wait for you in the Boundless Demon sect." When only nodded his head slightly and watched the two of them disappear into the white light. "Disciple, you have become the target of public criticism. Most of the powerful people in the 7 major cities have their eyes on you. I have already predicted that you will not stay in the Black Gold Mountain Range for long. Soon, they will enter the Black Gold Mountain Range to hunt you down." Shan Lingyun said worriedly. Zhuowen looked serious and said, "It's okay. I still have time. As long as I can successfully break through the Great Qian Tribulation before they enter the Black Gold Mountain Range, I am confident that I can survive." After that, Zhuowen continued to calm down and started to absorb the evil aura in the core of the Blackbone Wasteland at a faster speed. His aura was also increasing rapidly. Now, time was very precious to him. Add a bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 4281. The central square of Zhaodian City was crowded with people. If one were to observe closely, there were many experts with powerful auras hiding in the crowd. They were hiding in the crowd and staring at the sky above the square coldly. There was a gigantic black hole in the sky above the square. White light appeared. White glows appeared in the black hole and landed in the middle of the square. The white light landed in the square and began to fade away, revealing figures one after another. They were the contestants who were sent out of Wujin Mountain. When the contestants realized that they had returned to the square in Zhaotian City, they heaved a sigh of relief. However, there was still a gleam of fear deep in their eyes. Out! The contestants who had just arrived scanned the plaza and returned to their respective teams one after another after discovering their respective teams. Of course, the contestants who returned to their teams were basically discipled from the organizations in UR Realm. Meanwhile, the surviving geniuses on the Outer Realm Heaven leaderboard joined the crowd quietly, including Su Zhou and Ziyu. There was a luxurious inn at the southeast corner of the square. In a private room on the highest floor of the inn, the handsome lady was sitting lazily on the soft seat by the window. Her mesmerizing eyes were looking at the contestants who kept appearing in the middle of the square. The private room was huge and could accommodate dozens of people. At that moment, God bless Jian Luo and the 7 castellans were standing behind the handsome lady obediently. Master Handsome Lady, aren't the geniuses on the Outer Realm Heaven leaderboard going to stop them? Perhaps they know something about Zhuowen. God bless could not help but ask. The handsome lady shook her head and said, "These people have powerful backgrounds. There's no need to stop them. Moreover, we'll alert them if we stop them. All we need to do is to wait for them to show up. As soon as Zhuowen shows up, the formation around the square will be activated immediately. We'll take him down as soon as possible." God bless, Jian Luo and the 7 castellans were confused. Zhuowen was just a junior from the ancient star realm. Wasn't the handsome lady being a little too cautious? Fear. Even if they were to fight a cosmic Dharma powerhouse, they would only have such a lineup. The handsome lady looked at God bless, Jian Luo, and the rest who were confused. She said, "Yang Yuqing died near the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires mountain in Wujin Mountain. I'm sure you guys know about that, right?" You, Jian Luo, and the others were stunned for a moment before nodding subconsciously. Yang Yuqing was an elder-level powerhouse in Yuhua clan. His position was on par with Shunyu and Jian Luo. When they heard that Yuqing Yang had fallen, they were all in disbelief. After all, within the Black Gold Mountain range, there was basically no existence that could threaten Yuqing Yang. Therefore, Yang Yuqing's death was still a mystery in their eyes. Do you know how that Zhuowen entered the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires mountain? The girl narrowed her eyes and asked, "How'd he get in?" Logically speaking, with Yang Yu city guarding, how could this kid possibly have the chance to barge into the 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain? Did he force his way in? God bless could not help but laugh when he said that. He felt that his assumption was too unrealistic. How could a guy at the pinnacle of Ancient Star sneak into the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires mountain under the nose of a cosmic Dharma powerhouse? Jian Luo was also puzzled. He could not figure it out no matter how hard he thought about it. The girl had never told him the cause of Yuqing Yang's death. Therefore, they only knew that Yuqing Yang had fallen. As for how he had died, they had no idea. Zhuowen forced his way into the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires mountain under Yuqing Yang's nose. The girl said coldly. The room suddenly became silent. God Yu, Jian Luo, and the 7 city governors were in disbelief. They finally understood why Envy June was so cautious when dealing with Zhuowen. She had even set up such a terrifying formation. It was all for the sake of capturing Zhuowen alive. Original was the girl, suspecting that Yuqing Yang was killed by Zhuowen. Naturally, the girl saw through everyone's expressions. She said nonchalantly, "According to the information that I have, this kid is the most suspicious. Of course, whether it's him or not, the hidden powerhouses from the various forces in the square will help me verify it when he comes out." The first city governor looked at the cunning look on the girl's face and felt a chill run down his spine. They finally understood why the girl had encouraged everyone. It turned out that she was using these people as guinea pigs to verify her guess. If her guess was right, and Zhuan really had the ability to kill an early-stage cosmic avatar, there would naturally be intense clashes and conflicts with the crowd. She could use the tactic of taking turns to tire Zhuan out before capturing Zhuan alive. But if her guess was wrong, then Zhuan would be unable to withstand a single blow. At that time, she would naturally make a move and rescue Zhuan from the hands of the others. Moreover, she would capture him. With her strength and prestige, it would not be difficult to accomplish this. No matter if her guess was right or wrong, it would be beneficial to the girl in the end. 7. The first city governor was intimidated by the girl's scheming. His face was slightly pale, and he swore to himself that he would never offend this girl in front of him in the future. On the other hand, Shunyu and Jian Luo were used to it. In the Yuhua clan, the girl was the weakest among the 3 tribe leaders. However, she was also the most scheming. She was like an abyss, and it was difficult for people to see through her. As time passed, fewer and fewer people came out of the black hole in the sky above the square. However, Zhuan was still nowhere to be seen. And, therefore, when the last 2 people appeared in the square, the black hole in the sky began to shrink slowly. This also meant that all the survivors who were wearing jade tokens in the Golden Crow Mountains had been transported out. What's going on? Where's Zhuan? At that moment, the powerhouses who were hiding in the square could not sit still anymore and started to get restless. It seems like Zhuan knows that he has killed so many geniuses, and it's a fact that he can't hide the truth anymore. Therefore, he must have crushed his own jade token and doesn't plan to leave the Golden Crow Mountains. The governor of Clear Sky City, Chun Zhao, said with a frown. On the other hand, the female lead's gaze was calm, as if she had already guessed that this would happen. He's not stupid. He must be planning to break through the Qian Kuan disaster in the Golden Crow Mountains, but he doesn't know how stupid that is. The girl shook her head and smirked. After she finished speaking, she looked at Chun Zhao and the other city lords and said, "The 7 of you, open the entrance to Golden Crow Mountain Range again and remove the restrictions. This time, everyone is allowed to enter Golden Crow Mountain Range." Chun Zhao and the other city governors were shocked. The rule of the Golden Crow Mountains prohibited cultivators who were above the ancient star transformation realm from entering. It was set by the founders of the 7 giant cities, and no one had dared to violate it for tens of thousands of years. It could be said that the 7 giant cities had a tacit agreement with their ancestors, and no one had violated the rule all these years. Of course, they had already made an exception by allowing the powerhouses from the Yuhua clan to guard the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Mountain. Now that the girl was asking them to open the Golden Crow Mountains completely, it was a violation of the rule that their ancestors had left behind. Chapter 4282. This time, we are determined to win. You cannot refuse. Nuwa looked coldly at Chun Zhao and the other 7 city lords. The 7 city lords trembled. They could feel the terrifying, murderous intent in Nuwa's eyes. They knew that if they dared to refuse, Nuwa would use a thunderous method. This was not something they wanted to see. All right, we will go arrange it now. However, our ancestors spent a great deal of manpower and resources to construct the barrier around the Golden Crow Mountain Range. It will take 3 days for it to be completely unlocked. Chun Zhao said in a deep voice. All right, go and prepare. Also, announce this matter and calm the people outside. Nuwa looked at the restless people in the square and said indifferently. Chun Zhao and the other city lords nodded and said goodbye. They left the box and began to prepare to open Wujin Mountain Range. This news was deliberately spread by them, and the originally restless crowd gradually quietened down. As for the various experts hidden in the dark, they were also paying close attention to the movements of the 7 city lords. He has already received accurate information. The map fragment in Wujin Mountain Range has already been obtained by Zhuan. Whoever can capture Zhuan will be able to obtain the map fragment. However, the experts hidden in the shadows did not dare to act rashly. This was because they restrained each other. If one of them made the first move, the others would definitely make a move as well. At that time, It would cause an unprecedented chaotic battle. Oomph. It seems that Old Man Ming Deng, Blood Beauty, and Yun Xinzi have joined forces. They actually warned us that we are not allowed to enter Wujin Mountain Range in 3 days. The moment we enter Wujin Mountain Range, they will immediately attack us. In a luxurious box in Zhaotian City, an old man with a vigorous aura slammed his hand on the table with a malicious expression. Only he saw a golden envelope lying quietly on the table. When the envelope was opened, some words were written on it. There were 4 people in the box. Other than the old man, there was another middle-aged man whose aura was not weaker than the old man's. Apart outside, Su Zhou and Ziyu were in a private room. Their faces were extremely gloomy. If I'm not wrong, the 3 of them must have sent a notice to all the people from the super domains. This is a trap that Bright Lamp Old Man and the other 2 set for us. Moreover, we have no choice but to fall into this trap. Su Zhou said with a bitter smile. It is clearly stated in the letter that this is an internal affair of the Nuar realm, and we are all outsiders. Therefore, we should not meddle in their internal conflicts. Once anyone made a move, they would immediately be surrounded and attacked. We are very passive now. What should we do next? Z frowned. Void Day had a headache. Although there were many super realm experts who had come to the Nuar realm this time, they all had their own agendas and did not trust each other. House these guys who were hiding in the dark were all very smart. No one would be the one who stood out. This was a thankless job. Are the Bright Lamp Old Man and the others crazy? What's in it for them? Once this notice is released, even the 3 of them can't enter Wujin Mountains. Everyone has become their own supervisor. Ziyu didn't understand Old Man Ming Deng and the other 2's actions. The 3 of them must have reached some kind of agreement with the Nuwa clanswoman. For example, after capturing Zhuowen, they would hand him over to them to deal with. This is also why the 3 of them dared to so blatantly warn all of us. If everyone doesn't move, it's actually beneficial to them. Su Zhou said. Then let's quickly reveal Old Man Ming Deng and the other 2's purpose. Let the others unite and ignore their warnings. Then, won't we regain the initiative? Ziyu hurriedly said. Su Zhou sighed. Brother Ziyu, if we can think of this, do you think the others can't? This is an open conspiracy. We know it's a trap, but we still have to fall into it. Those guys hiding in the dark don't care about Zhuowen at all. In their eyes, Zhuowen is just an ant that they can casually crush. As long as the other super realm experts don't enter, it doesn't matter if the Nuar realm experts enter Wujin Mountains. Because they knew very well that Zhuowen would definitely fall into the hands of those cultivators from the Nuar realm in the end. As they're also from a super realm, all they need to do is to bide their time and guard the exit of Black Gold Mountain Range. Once someone captures Zhuowen, they only need to say something. Do you think those cultivators from Nuar realm will dare to resist us, who are from a super realm? Even the Nuar wouldn't dare to offend so many super realm experts at the same time. Old Man Ming Deng sighed. He sighed softly and said, Su Zhou's analysis is very correct. The warning that Old Man Ming Deng and the other 2 gave just happened to strike at the hearts of those fellows hiding in the shadows. It gave us the illusion that staying put would be fair to everyone, so no one came out to oppose Old Man Ming Deng and the other 2's warning. Instead, they tacitly accepted this invisible warning. In fact, Old Man Ming Deng and the other 2 probably have some kind of secret plan. It's just that I haven't thought of it yet. But all in all, biding our time with the others has made us very passive. Su Zhou said with a frown. Compared to the others, we have an advantage. After all, we have an agreement with Zhuowen. As long as we make contact with him first, the map fragment will be at our fingertips. Old Man Ming Deng suddenly said. Actually, we have already made contact with Zhuowen. At that time, we had already asked him for the map fragment, but he refused. Unless we can bring him out safely, he won't easily hand over the map fragment. Ziyu said somewhat angrily. Old Man Ming Deng and the middle-aged man frowned. They thought that Zhuowen really didn't know what was good for him. If he had handed over the map fragment to Su Zhou and Ziyu earlier, they wouldn't have to be so distressed now. Little did they know that they didn't even consider Zhuowen's life or death. Obviously, In their eyes, Zhuan's life was not worth anything. The map fragment should be handed over to them as soon as they obtained it. How laughable. The only thing we can do now is to think of a way to help Zhuan escape. Old man Ming Dang sighed. He sighed and took out a palm-sized bead. This bead was similar to an eyeball. Not only did it have a white eye and pupil, but it also looked very lively, as if it was a living eyeball. The black pupil was constantly moving left and right, as if it was sizing up the surrounding environment. Eyes of the Void. I didn't expect you to have this thing. The middle-aged man looked at the bead in old man Ming Dang's hand with shock in his eyes. The Eyes of the Void was extremely expensive. Using the Eyes of the Void, one could merge into the void, ignore any restrictions, and travel through the void from a long distance. The only drawback of the Eyes of the Void was that it was a one-time consumable item. It would break after one use. This was an escape tool. Ancient Starlight experts would all prepare one to save their lives at a critical moment. This item could even save the life of an ancient Starlight expert. From this, it could be seen how valuable it was. Suzhou looked at old man Ming Dang with some surprise. He obviously didn't expect old man Ming Dang to have the Eyes of the Void. Darren secretly gave this to me. Gongzi, he still cares about you. Old man Ming Dang looked at Suzhou with a complicated expression and said hesitantly. Suzhou seemed to think of something. He fell silent and said with an ugly expression, "Then use this Eyes of the Void." Chapter 4283. Gongzi, the Eye of the Void is very important. That Darren gave it to me to save your life. The old man said hesitantly. Suzhou shook his head. It's fine. I have my own means of escaping. I don't need his things. The old man hesitated for a moment and nodded. With the Eye of the Void, we only need to come into contact with Zhuan. But the Eye of the Void is too precious. It's too risky to let others bring it in. Ziyu's eyes flickered. Give the Eye of the Void to me. I will arrange for people to enter the Wujin Mountains and deliver it to Zhuan. Suddenly, a clear and melodious female voice came from behind the curtain. It was like a stream that slowly flowed through everyone's hearts. Suzhou, Ziyu, and the others heard the female voice. Their expressions immediately became dignified and respectful. They all bowed towards the curtain. Darren, who do you plan to send into the Wujin Mountains? Is this person reliable? Suzhou asked carefully. Don't worry. The people I send are trustworthy. Give the Eye of the Void to me. The female voice sounded again. Big. The four people in the hall looked at each other, but they didn't dare to refute the woman's orders. They handed the Eye of the Void to the curtain. All right. If you have nothing else, you can leave. The female voice sounded again. This time, she was asking them to leave. Suzhou and the others laughed bitterly, and then they bowed and left the pavilion. While the outside world was in a state of panic, Zhuan was sitting in the Blackbone wasteland and silently cultivating. He could already feel that he was getting closer and closer to breaking through. 1, 2 days, 3 days. 3 days later, Zhuan, who was sitting cross-legged, suddenly opened his eyes. A blazing light flashed through his eyes. Only he slowly stood up. A terrifying storm rose from his body and lingered around him. The aura in his body had reached an extremely terrifying level. Clang! The aura surging out of Zhuan's body reached its peak. A terrifying black hole appeared in the sky above his head. Every single, even the black hole, was giving birth to terrifying tribulation energy. Black. The number of holes increased. Dozens of them appeared in an instant. The sky was completely corroded by the darkness. Original. The originally bright sky suddenly fell into darkness, and the earth also completely sank into endless darkness. The only source of light was the light emitted by the calamity that was brewing in the depths of the black hole. No. In the distance, Shanling Yun, Xiao He, and Shi, who were originally protecting Zhuan. They were all nervously huddled together. Oh my God. Heavenbreaker burst into tears, and bean-sized teardrops rolled down his cheeks in an unending stream. You popped out a rock. How could you have a mother? You're looking for your mother. Xiao Hei cursed. His face was frighteningly gloomy. Grandpa Hei, hold me tight. I'm so scared. This calamity will definitely strike me to death. Sure, Patian spoke incoherently. Like an octopus, he hugged Xiao Hei tightly and wouldn't let go no matter what. Hey, kid, don't make a fuss. You're not the one who is going through the calamity. It is my disciple. Shan Lingyun glanced at Sher Patian coldly and said disdainfully. Sher Patian, who was originally scared out of his wits, regained his senses. He hurriedly let go of Xiao Hei. He touched the snot under his nostrils and the tear stains on his cheeks. He said in shock and fear, I see. So I'm not the one who is going through the calamity. I was wondering, this calamity is so weak. How could it be the calamity of the talented me? After saying that, Sher Patian glanced at Shan Lingyun from the corner of his eyes. He even pretended to be an expert with his hands behind his back. That small figure with his hands behind his back was really out of place. Xiao Hei could not help but laugh out loud. You two enter the parallel dimension first. Patian, take control of the greater world and go as far away as you can. Otherwise, you'll all be caught up in the crossfire. Wen's expression was solemn. He instructed the three of them who were still fooling around and kept them in the parallel dimension. Xiao Hei stayed in the Taiyu sacred sword and hung on Zhuan's waist. Under Sure Potion's control, the parallel dimension turned into a speck of dust and quickly left the Blackbone Wasteland. Not long after the parallel dimension left the Blackbone Wasteland, a terrifying calamity energy formed by the fusion of lightning and fire suddenly blasted down from the sky. It heavily struck the vast and boundless land. A deafening sound reverberated between heaven and earth. The huge Blackbone Wasteland was blasted open. It was so huge that it almost divided the entire wasteland into two regions. Strong gales swept out in all directions in a ring-shaped manner. The macro world, which was not far away from the Blackbone Wilderness, was also affected. It began to tremble violently, as if it would collapse at any time. Damn it, this is just the beginning, and the calamity is already so terrifying. Master, will he be all right? In the parallel dimension, Sure Patian, who had barely stabilized the parallel dimension, had a lingering fear on his face. He could not help but ask worriedly, Shut your King, big head. Shut your crow's beak. If anything happens to my disciple, I will chop you up first. Shan Lingyun patted Sure Potion's head and said rudely with her hands on her hips. Sure Patian shrank his head and laughed. Master is so powerful. Of course he will be fine. I was just joking. The terrifying lightning and fire descended. Zhuan did not dare to be negligent. Purple gold divine power surged out from his body and directly collided with the lightning and fire in a barbaric manner. Boom! The moment the two collided, the lightning and fire were like maggots in a tarsal bone. They bombarded Zhuan's body fiercely and burned him. The lightning and fire enveloped his entire body and swam rapidly around his body. Zhuan let out a muffled groan and fell to the ground in a sorry state. His expression became rather solemn and sorry. I did not expect my great universe calamity to be so terrifying. Zhuan wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He looked at the black holes in the sky, and the terrifying light of calamity flashed in them. His eyes were filled with bitterness. This was just the beginning, and he was already injured. It looked like he had to give it his all. Otherwise, he might die in this great universe calamity. Boom! Suddenly, the terrifying calamity swept out from the dozens of black holes again. This time, it was not lightning and fire, but wind and thunder energy. In an instant, one's eyes were filled with sharp wind blades and ear-piercing thunder energy. Wen's eyes were fearless. He flew out again and pulled out the Taiyu sacred sword from his waist. He soared into the sky. His aura became even more vast and powerful. At this moment, he was like a peerless divine sword that had been unsheathed. While Zhuan was struggling to overcome the great universe calamity, A passage to the Golden Crow mountain range appeared in the sky above the huge square in Clear Sky City. With the efforts of the 7 city lords, they finally opened the entrance to the Golden Crow mountain range 3 days later. They also removed the restrictions on the ancient star transformation cultivators in the Golden Crow mountain range. This was also the busiest day in Clear Sky City. There were many cultivators gathered around the central square. There was no lack of powerful Dharma power cultivators among them. Chapter 4284. Everyone, the passageway to Golden Crow Mountain has been reopened. There are no longer any restrictions on cultivation. Anyone who wants to enter Golden Crow Mountain can do so. In the middle of the square, Chun Zhao stood at the front. He was full of energy as he spoke to the people around him. Everyone knows that the reason why we have reopened Golden Crow Mountain is all because of Zhuowen. This man is cruel and merciless. He slaughtered most of the contestants in Golden Crow Mountain and broke the rules of the Big Hunt. Due to his guilty conscience, he did not dare to leave Golden Crow Mountain and is currently hiding somewhere in Golden Crow Mountain, struggling to survive. The 7 major cities have always enforced the law impartially. Since Zhuowen has committed such a huge crime, we will not sit by and do nothing. I don't think any of you will let him go just like that. Now, I have reopened the passageway to give all of you a chance to take revenge. However, before that, I would like to remind all of you, this man's strength is not simple. Those whose cultivation is below the Qian Kuan tribulation should not join in the fun. Chun Zhao spoke slowly. Although his voice was not loud, everyone in the square could still hear him clearly. Just as Chun Zhao finished speaking, the impatient crowd in the square rushed into the newly reopened passageway like a swarm of locusts. He did not care about Chun Zhao's reminder. All of them could not wait any longer. Zhuozhuo had mercilessly killed their disciples. Right now, they wished they could immediately find Zhuo and tear him into pieces. Of course, there were also some shrewd people who wanted to take advantage of the situation. They already knew that Zhuowen had entered 7 emotions and 6 desires mountain and was suspected to have obtained the treasures of the Saint Lord of 7 emotions and 6 desires. These people did not have pure intentions. They wanted to snatch the treasures of the Saint Lord of 7 emotions and 6 desires from Zhuowen. In a private room on the top floor of a tall building not far from the square, the beautiful woman sat quietly by the window. Her beautiful eyes were looking at the square not far away. Shen Yu and Jian Luo stood quietly behind the beautiful woman. My lady, although Zhuowen and Duan Jiping are partners, Duan Jiping is not stupid. He should know that it's a trap as soon as we spread the news. It's quite unlikely that he'd risk his life to enter Black Gold Mountain Range to save Zhuowen. God Bless could not help but ask. God Bless guessed that Duan Jiping was trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone after Duan Jiping ordered her men to spread the news that everyone was attacking Zhuowen. However, God Bless did not believe that Duan Jiping would risk his life to save Zhuowen. Female June smiled faintly and said, even if Duan Jiping abandoned Zhuowen's life without a care, it's also within my plan. After hearing the news, even if he doesn't come to save Zhuowen, he will probably panic and take this opportunity to escape from the 7 major cities. You have to know that all the cultivators in the 7 great cities are eyeing Zhuowen right now. No one would leave the 7 great cities at this juncture. The person who will leave will most likely be Duan Jiping. God Bless and Jian Luo were shocked. It was no wonder they realized that the beautiful woman had been setting up so many ambushes around the 7 cities for the past 3 days. It turned out that she had considered such a situation. As expected of Lady June, no matter if Duan Jiping saves Zhuowen or not, he'll be exposed. He's already a sitting duck, Jian Luo said in admiration. Suddenly, the beautiful woman's pupils shrunk slowly while the aura on her body became violent. Shen Yu and Jian Luo immediately sensed the change in the beautiful woman's aura. They were puzzled. I can't believe that Duan Jiping showed up. It seems like this person is close to Zhuowen. I can't believe that he has the guts to save Zhuan at this critical moment. The beautiful woman fixed her gaze on a silhouette in the square and revealed a smirk at the corner of her lips. God bless and Jian Luo were shocked. They followed the beautiful woman's gaze and saw a suspicious silhouette at the edge of the square. The person was covered in a black robe with a huge hood. They could not see his face clearly, and even his aura was concealed. Although Yu and Jian Luo had seen Duan Jiping before, they could not confirm that this person was Duan Jiping just by looking at his back. However, they did not doubt the beautiful woman's words because her senses were much sharper than theirs. Even the clan Venerable had praised the beautiful woman's terrifying senses. As long as the beautiful woman had her eyes on someone, she would never be wrong. I'll stop him. God bless was about to attack, but was stopped by the beautiful woman. Hold on. I've already informed the 7 city governors. They'll stop this person for us. The beautiful woman stopped God bless and said. Shen Yu looked again. As expected, the silhouette that they suspected was stopped by the 7 city governors. Shen Qinzhao looked at the man who was covered in a black robe coldly and asked, Fellow cultivator, have we met before? The black-robed man frowned slightly and lowered his head. He said in a raspy voice, Fellow cultivator, I think you've got the wrong person. We've never met before. The black-robed man planned to go around Chun Zhao, but was stopped by Ling Luo, who was behind Chun Zhao. Fellow Taoist, take off your hood and let us see your face. Ling Luo's words were filled with an unquestionable tone as he spoke coldly. Isn't this too much? Do I have to be interrogated after entering the Golden Crow mountain range? Are all the 7 city governors unreasonable? The black-robed man said unhappily. It's not that we're unreasonable, but you're too suspicious. Otherwise, why don't you take off your hood? Phoenician crossed her arms and looked at the black-robed man coldly. All right, I'll take off my hood and show you. The black-robed man scoffed and grabbed the edge of his hood with his right hand. He was about to lift his hood. Shun, Zhao, and the other city governors let out a sigh of relief. However, something unexpected happened at that moment. The 7 city governors were shocked. Just as the black-robed man's right hand grabbed the brim of his hat and was about to lift the hood, his left hand shot out like lightning, and a divine blade silently appeared in his left palm. Rip! Rip! Suddenly, the black-robed man held the sword in his left hand and swung it horizontally. The terrifying sword energy was like a terrifying storm that swept out and slashed towards Chun Zhao and the other city governors. The attack was too sudden. The black-robed man had attacked at the right time, and Chun Zhao and the rest did not expect it at all. For a moment, Chun Zhao and the other 6 were caught off guard. They hurriedly used their transcendence divine power to defend against the saber that came out of nowhere. After Chun Zhao and the other city governors were forced back by the unexpected attack, the black-robed man did not attack again. Instead, he took a step forward and used a mysterious movement technique to rush towards the Golden Crow mountain range tunnel behind the 7 city governors. Damn it, stop him! Chun shouted. Zhao and the other city governors were furious. However, they were powerless at that moment. They had just been forced back by the sword energy and did not have any energy left to stop the black-robed man. The black-robed man was extremely fast and appeared at the entrance of the tunnel in the blink of an eye. Just as he was about to rush into the passage in one go, he had an ominous feeling in his heart. He stopped abruptly and retreated tens of meters back. Only a terrifying attack had appeared on the ground where he had been standing. It had blasted open a terrifying trench and hole. Chapter 4285. After the black-robed man retreated some distance, he realized that the person who attacked him was a man in a feathered robe and a crown on his head. At the feathered robe man's side was a quiet, middle-aged man who was carrying a sword case on his back. The 2 of them were Shen Yu and Jian Luo, who had been hiding in a room nearby. The moment the black-robed man attacked, the 2 of them attacked under the command of the handsome girl. Seeing that his path was blocked, the black-robed man knew that it was impossible for him to enter Golden Crow mountain range again. Only just when he thought of retreating, he realized that Chun Zhao, Ling Luo, and the rest of the 7 governors had blocked his path of retreat. Duan Jiping, we already knew that it was you. Why are you being so secretive? Shen Yu's eyes were glowing with a red glow as he spoke arrogantly. Clang! At the beginning, he'd almost died at the hands of Duan Jiping and Zhuowen, so his hatred towards the two of them could be said to be surging like the tide, and he wished for nothing more than to hack Duan Jiping and Zhuo went into 1,000 pieces. Chun Zhao and the rest of the 7 governors were shocked. Of course, they had heard of Duan Jiping. After all, the news of Duan Jiping snatching the Dark Chakra had spread across the entire Nuwa territory. The Nuwa tribe had even issued an arrest warrant for him. Back then, the matter had caused a huge uproar. Only yes, they did not expect Duan Jiping to come to their 7 cities. Moreover, he wanted to enter Golden Crow mountain range. They could not understand why. If he was an ordinary person, he would have fled as far as he could with the Dark Chakra eye. Why would he come to Golden Crow mountain range to seek his own death? The black-robed man kept quiet for a moment and finally spoke. I can't believe that all of you managed to recognize me. Then, the black-robed man lifted his hood and revealed a handsome face. It was Duan Jiping. Ever since Zhuowen entered Golden Crow mountain range to participate in the big hunt, Duan Jiping had been meditating in the inn. At the same time, he was waiting for news of Zhuowen's return. However, after waiting for a long time, he received orders from the 7 governors to target Zhuowen. The development of the situation was beyond his imagination. Zhuowen had slaughtered most of the participants in the Wujin mountain range. He had even slaughtered the top 3 geniuses on the Outer Realm heavenly ranking. He had to admit that Zhuowen's way of doing things was admirable. However, he was also extremely worried about Zhuowen's situation. After killing so many contestants, how could the powerhouses behind them sit still? Once the big hunt was over, Zhuowen would become the target of public criticism and would die without a burial place. When the 7 city lords announced that they were going to open the entrance to the Golden Crow mountain range and allow all cultivators to enter, he could no longer sit still. He knew that he had to enter the Black Gold mountain range and inform Zhuowen of this matter, so that he could prepare to escape. Only then would he have a chance of survival. Otherwise, he would definitely die. Only yes, he never thought that he would be recognized just as he was about to sneak in. Duan Jiping, are you still not going to surrender? You won't be able to run away from us now. God bless smirked. Forgive me for not being able to comply. After Ji Peng finished speaking, he used his movement technique and rushed towards the 7 city lords behind him. You must have a death wish. Seeing that Duan Jiping was coming towards him, Zhao sneered in his heart and immediately summoned his cosmic form. There were 7 cosmic form experts here. He was impressed by Duan Jiping's courage for daring to come towards them. Therefore, the remaining 6 city lords summoned their cosmic forms as well. They would not underestimate Duan Jiping. After all, this guy was a cosmic form expert, and he even had a complete astral weapon with him. His ability was not to be underestimated. Only yes, when the 7 city lords summoned their cosmic forms and waited for Duan Jiping to walk into their trap, Duan Jiping suddenly stomped his foot in the air and dashed in the opposite direction at an even faster speed. *T, we've been tricked. His real target is the entrance to the Golden Crow mountain range. Zhao shouted. His face became very ugly. He had already been tricked twice by Duan Jiping, and he couldn't hold on to his face any longer. Only yes, Duan Jiping's speed was too fast, and they had just realized what was going on. It was too late to chase after him now. Just in time, Shun used Fighting Spirit's sword as he summoned his cosmic form immediately. His cosmic form had a human head and a snake body. He held a divine mace in his left hand and a lotus lamp in his right hand. He looked solemn like a bodhisattva. Duan Jiping did not dare to hold back at all. He had to end the battle quickly and break through Shun Yu and Jian Luo's blockade. He had to rush to the entrance of the Golden Crow mountain range as soon as possible to avoid being surrounded by the 7 city lords who had realized what was going on. Duan Jiping did not slow down as his gigantic cosmic form appeared in the air behind him. Duan Jiping's cosmic form was covered in ferocious armor, while he held a gigantic blue divine sword in his right hand. After Duan Jiping merged with his cosmic form, he charged towards Shunyu and Jianluo violently. Just in time, Shunyu roared as his gigantic cosmic form collided with Duan Jiping's cosmic form. As the blue divine sword and the mace collided, the entire space shook as if it was going to collapse. Invisible energy ripples spread in all directions in a circular manner. Both of them were at the early stage of cosmic form. They were evenly matched in a head-on collision. No, however, due to the fact that God Bless was severely injured earlier and had yet to fully recover, he was at a disadvantage in the collision. The spring water. The moment Shunyu was suppressed, Jianluo, who was standing nearby, did not stand aside. Instead, he tapped the sword case on his back softly with his right hand. The sword sheath opened slightly, and a sharp and oppressive sword chi rushed out unscrupulously, as if it wanted to pierce through the sky. A palm-sized emerald green sword shot out. As soon as the sword was swung, terrifying energy ripples spread out in the air and headed straight for Duan Jiping. Jianluo's ability was above Shunyu, as his cultivation level was at the mid-stage of cosmic form. Although he did not perform his cosmic form, the sword attack was still powerful. Naturally, Duan Jiping dared not take Jianluo's attack head-on. He forced Shunyu to step back with a swing of his sword and grabbed his waist with his left hand. A cold gleam gleamed as he pulled out his second divine sword. Bang! Slash! The sword collided with the divine sword. The tiny sword that seemed much smaller than the divine sword seemed to contain endless power, forcing Duan Jiping to take 3 steps back. Duan Jiping saw that the 7 city lords behind him were about to surround him completely. He knew that he didn't have that much time, so he didn't even think about it before activating his Dark Chakra eye. The moment Duan Jiping performed the Dark Chakra that looked like a real eye, Shunyu, who was fighting with Duan Jiping in front, shuddered out of reflex and retreated immediately. Shunyu looked at the Dark Chakra, floating in front of Duan Jiping in fear. He was almost killed by the Dark Chakra back then. Now that he was scared when he saw it again. Duan Jiping, as Jiping activated the Dark Chakra, 2 beams of crimson light shot out from the depths of the Dark Chakra's pupils. They were aimed at Shunyu and Jianluo respectively. Shunyu's face turned pale. He no longer cared about stopping Duan Jiping and began to run for his life, while Jianluo focused his gaze and took a step forward. A gigantic cosmic form consolidated behind him. Chapter 4286. Jianluo's cosmic idol was the same as his. It wasn't very outstanding, and it even looked very ordinary. It also had the head of a human and the body of a snake, but it looked more like a downtrodden swordsman. It was far from being as dazzling as the God-blessed cosmic idol. However, Duan Jiping could feel how powerful Jianluo's cosmic idol was. Sword Jianluo fused with his cosmic idol, and a huge illusory sword box gradually appeared behind the cosmic idol. First sword cleaving spring water. Jianluo's voice was as calm as ever. As soon as he said this, a crack appeared in the sword box on his back, and a huge emerald green divine sword rushed out. Although it was the same move, after using his cosmic idol, Jianluo's first sword cleaving spring water was much more terrifying. In other words, this was the true might of the first sword cleaving spring water. Jade the emerald green divine sword cut through the void like a surging spring water, revealing its extraordinariness within its extraordinariness. Clang! The emerald green sword light slammed into the scarlet light, and sword chi surged like a tornado, stacking layer by layer until it erupted with the strongest sword intent. Although the scarlet light was domineering and terrifying, it actually stopped in front of the emerald green sword light. Although the time it stopped was very short, it still managed to stop the scarlet light for a moment. Second sword cleaving sun and stars. Jian Luo's expression became much more serious. Facing the scarlet light, he had no choice but to retreat as he used his second divine ability. The sword box on his back opened even wider, and an even bigger divine sword flew out. This sword's body was a mixture of gold and blue. This sword was incomparably sharp, and it felt as if the sun and stars were about to be cut down by it. And the sword light emitted by this sword was even sharper and more dazzling, and nothing could compete with it. This time, the scarlet light was stopped by the second divine ability for a few breaths of time, which greatly exceeded Duan Jiping's expectations. Jian Luo retreated again, but his face was deathly pale, and blood was flowing out from the corner of his mouth. As expected of my race's supreme treasure, the Dark Chakra, it's just the most basic attack, but my two swords are unable to stop it. The only thing we can do now is use the third sword. Jian Luo's eyes flashed with determination. He slowly raised his right hand and curled his right index finger. A terrifying fluctuation naturally surged out from the tip of his finger. Then the sword box on his back suddenly trembled violently. An unparalleled aura surged out from the sword sheath, as if a demon god was about to rush out from the sword sheath. The surrounding atmosphere instantly became much more solemn and terrifying. Just as Jian Luo was about to unleash his third sword strike, a slender figure appeared before him. A jade-white hand gently grasped Jian Luo's right hand. Jian Luo, your third sword will take your life. You don't need to use this sword yet. A cold voice sounded faintly. Jian Luo raised his head in a daze as he looked at the elegant woman before him. He nodded lightly before withdrawing his right hand. The woman who came to stop Jian Luo was none other than Nanu, who had been hiding in the shadows for a long time. Only seeing that Nanu's beautiful eyes were rather solemn, she waved her sleeve, and an aura that was far more powerful than Jian Luo and God blesses surged out. The scarlet light that was charging at Jian Luo stopped when it was a few feet away from Nanu. Then it slowly dissipated. After Nanu dealt with the scarlet light that was charging at Jian Luo, God bless, who was still running for his life, rushed over and hid behind Nanu. Nanu glanced coldly at God bless, who was trembling behind her. After cursing him for being a good-for-nothing, she waved her sleeve and destroyed the scarlet light that was chasing after God bless. I didn't expect you to be able to release 2 dark chakra blood thunderbolts at once. Although that's the most basic attack of the Dark Chakra it's extremely draining on your body. You're only at the beginner stage of the universe's Dharma form. You must have reached your limit to be able to release 2 dark chakra blood thunderbolts at once. Nanu said softly as she lifted her beautiful eyes and looked at Duan Jiping, who was pale and bloodless, who was not far away. Duan Jiping looked terrible. Initially, he planned to charge into the passageway that led to the Black Gold Mountain Range while God bless and Jian Luo were being held back by the 2 scarlet light. However, unfortunately, Nanu's appearance had completely disrupted his plan. He looked at the 7 castellans behind him who were blocking his escape route. A bitter smile appeared at the corner of his lips as he knew that he did not even have the chance to run now. Now, he was surrounded by a total of 10 universe's Dharma form powerhouses, including Nanu, who was at the pinnacle of the universe's Dharma form powerhouse. He had reached the point where there was no way out for him now. The 7 castellans blocked Duan Jiping's escape route, but none of them dared to take him down. They looked at the Dark Chakra that was hovering next to Duan Jiping with fear. It was a complete stellar weapon that the Nuwa clan regarded as their ultimate treasure. Its power was extremely terrifying. The 7 castellans were not from the Nuwa clan. Naturally, they would not put themselves in danger just because of Nanu's order. Hand over the Dark Chakra, bind your hands, and follow me back to the Nuwa clan obediently, Nanu said calmly. Duan Jiping did not speak. He held the Dark Chakra with his right hand and poured his godly power into it. Duan, the Dark Chakra, I seemed to become more agile as it shot out scarlet rays of light again. Furthermore, the scarlet light that shot out this time was even more dangerous than before. Its power was also a lot stronger. Duan Jipeng's face turned even paler. Blood even flowed out of the corner of his mouth and down his neck. Nanu's beautiful eyes turned even colder. She raised her sleeve again, and a blazing golden light gathered in her right palm and blasted it out. Soared the radiance collided with the scarlet light, and an ear-piercing crackling sound rang out. After that, the beautiful woman could not help but take 2 steps back. However, that thick and solid scarlet light was also annihilated by her. Stubborn fool, Nana was a little angry. She did not waste any more words and flew out, appearing in the air above Duan Jipeng. Her right hand formed a palm and slammed down, aiming for Duan Jipeng's Tianling acupoint. Duan Jipeng was in a very bad state. Too much of his godly power had been used up by the dark chakra. Even his consciousness was a little blurry. He could only raise his hands and block the attack. Crack. F***ck. Ching, the crisp sound of bones cracking was heard as Nanu slammed her palm down. Duan Jipeng fell to the ground, creating a huge crater. Duan Jipeng spat out a mouthful of blood. His hands were completely twisted and covered in blood. He was completely crippled by Nanu's palm. However, his right palm held the dark chakra tightly. Take the dark chakra from his hand, Nanu ordered calmly. Naturally, Shun dared not disobey. He landed next to Duan Jipeng and stepped on Duan Jipeng's hand. Duan Jipeng groaned in pain, but he did not let go. He glared at Shun fiercely. You not letting go? Shun asked. Shun had been suppressing his anger for a long time. He kicked Duan Jipeng with his right foot without hesitation. Every kick contained powerful godly power. Shun was bleeding profusely, and the meridians in his body began to rupture. As for Duan Jipeng's cosmic avatar, it could no longer be maintained due to his heavy injuries and had dissipated. God Bless only managed to snatch the dark chakra from Duan Jipeng with all his might. Before he left, he did not forget to kick Duan Jipeng a few times, causing him to groan in pain. Chapter 4287. Be gentle. Don't kill him. He's still useful. Seeing that Shan Yu was being merciless to Duan Jipeng, Jun could not help but frown. God Yu hurriedly bowed and handed the dark chakra to Junyu with both hands. Junyu took the dark chakra and inspected it. A smile appeared on her face. Lashi had finally found the dark chakra that she had lost for so many years. Xinyu, Jian Luo, the two of you have made a great contribution. After capturing Zhuoan, I will report to the great clan leader when the two of you return to the Nuo clan. He will reward the two of you handsomely, Junyu said with a smile. God Yu was trembling with excitement. With Junyu's words, he did not put on an act for nothing. Jian Luo, on the other hand, nodded calmly. He did not seem to be interested in the reward from the great clan leader. Take Duan Jipeng away. Jian Luo, you will be in charge of guarding him. Junyu ordered the silent Jian Luo. Junyu knew that Xinyu held a grudge against Duan Jipeng. If Xinyu was allowed to guard Duan Jipeng, he would definitely harm Duan Jipeng. If Duan Jipeng was killed, her plan would be ruined. Sword Junyu nodded. Divine power surged out and restrained the half-dead Duan Jipeng. Then, he carried him and followed Junyu back to the room in the pavilion near the plaza. Swoosh, swoosh. They entered Zhaotian City from the Wujin mountain range. It was located at the northeast edge of the Wujin mountain range. At this moment, numerous figures rushed out from the passageway. They were densely packed in the sky, like a swarm of locusts passing through. Look, what's that? What a huge commotion. What a terrifying aura. Suddenly, someone looked at the sky in the distance. Over there, in the depths of the sky, numerous terrifying black holes hung in the sky. And within those black holes, extremely terrifying calamities rained down without restraint. Terror-frightening explosions continuously resounded. The extremely large area in the distance had completely turned into a calamity hell. It was as though no one was allowed to enter. Is that the great universal calamity? Zhuowen must have broken through and is undergoing the calamity there. Great universal calamity? Are you kidding me? Have you ever seen such a terrifying great cosmic tribulation? Why do I feel like this tribulation wasn't as terrifying as the one I faced when I faced the cosmic Dharma idol tribulation? Fear and dread filled the eyes of the many powerhouses who had entered the Golden Crow mountain range when they sensed the terrifying calamity in the distance. Namely, even though they were quite far away, they could still feel the terror and power of the calamity in the distance. Let's go and take a look. If that Zhuowen is really transcending the tribulation, it will give us a chance. We can attack him from afar and interfere with his tribulation, killing him in the process. The one who spoke was a middle-aged Confucian scholar with a tall crown on his head. His face was covered with fine wrinkles, showing the traces of time. The middle-aged scholar's name was Do Ko, and he was the leader of the Beacon Fire Academy's team. At the same time, he was the father of Do Shunxiao, who had been killed by Zhuowen. After knowing that Do Shunxiao was killed by Zhuowen, Do Ko already hated Zhuowen. He only wanted to tear Zhuowen into pieces to pay tribute to his dead child. Sinus, as soon as he said this, everyone around nodded in agreement. Feng, after all, the Beacon Fire Academy was one of the 7 superpowers in the Nuar realm, and Do Ko was better at strategy than strength. His suggestion was the most reasonable. Although there were many powerhouses who had entered the Golden Crow mountain range this time, these powerhouses were all led by the powerhouses of the 7 superpowers, and no one dared to stand out. Out in front of these powerhouses, there were 7 very dazzling figures. They were Su De from the 5 Immortals Divine Sect, Lu Qingshun from the Moon-Chopping Saint Pavilion, Mo Lan from the Tathagata Buddhist Sect, Mo Lan from the Boundless Demon Sect, Do Ko from the Beacon Fire Academy, Huan Ri from the Water Moon Illusory House, and Yu from the 3 Wardens Prison. While Su De, Lu Qingshun, and the other 5 agreed with Do Ko's suggestion, and no one objected. The elites of the 7 superpowers had all been killed by Zhuowen, and they all hated Zhuowen to the core. Now, they couldn't wait to cut Zhuowen into pieces. They didn't care how Zhuowen died, as long as he died. Of course, some of them had other ideas. In addition to killing Zhuowen, they also wanted to take the treasures of the Saint Lord of 7 emotions and 6 desires from Zhuowen. They were all shrewd people. When the handsome girl personally came to the 7 big cities, and when the 7 emotions, 6 desires mountain suddenly exploded in the Black Gold Mountain range, they connected it to the series of actions of the 7 big city lords who ordered people to surround and kill Zhuowen. He had already guessed that Zhuowen must have a huge secret, and it was very likely that he had obtained the treasures and inheritance of the 7 emotions and 6 desires mountain range. Black Lotus followed behind Mo Lan, and her beautiful eyes were full of anxiety. She kept sending messages to Mo Lan, asking him to withdraw from the team that was besieging Zhuowen. Only Mo Lan didn't take Black Lotus's words seriously at all. Instead, he thought that Black Lotus was too much of a hindrance, so he waved his hand and sent him out of the Golden Crow mountain range. Oh, this is really rare. Your boundless demon sex Black Lotus is famous for being cold and heartless. Why is she speaking up for Zhuowen this time? Could it be that she has fallen in love with him? Lu Qingshun of the Moon-Slaying Sacred Pavilion said sarcastically when she saw Black Lotus being sent out by Mo Lan. 7 among the major forces, the strongest geniuses of the other 6 forces had all died, and only Black Lotus of the Boundless Demon Sect was still alive. Lu Qingshun was actually quite jealous. No, Lu Qingshun was the only one. The rest of the experts of the other 7 forces looked at Mo Lan with disgust. Mo Lan was expressionless and said, "Black Lotus is just lucky." Lu Qingshun sneered. She naturally didn't believe Mo Lan's words. She knew that there must be something hidden, but since Mo Lan didn't want to say it, there was nothing she could do. Humph! Black Lotus is really becoming more and more rebellious. So what if Zhuan helped her in the Golden Crow mountain range? He just has evil intentions. He must die. Mo Lan's eyes were malicious as he thought to himself. Everyone, let's go together. This guy's heaven and earth tribulation is not simple. We don't need to get too close. We only need to attack from afar to disturb him. He definitely won't be able to survive this tribulation. Doko suddenly shouted and waved his arm, which attracted enthusiastic responses from the crowd. Then, this group of experts, led by the experts of the other 7 forces, headed toward the abyssal bone wasteland in the depths of the Golden Crow mountain range. At this moment, the abyssal bone wasteland had been filled with apocalyptic tribulations, and it had become a forbidden area for life. Numerous bottomless pits were blasted open on the entire expanse of the wasteland by the numerous tribulations, and numerous hideous and deep ravines were even lined up in row upon row on the ground. It seemed to be riddled with holes, and it was a horrifying sight. After when Wei defended against the first wave of thunder and fire tribulation, the second wave of thunder and fire tribulation came one after another. This second wave of thunder and fire tribulation was no longer thunder and fire tribulation, but huge meteorites. These meteorites were extremely extraordinary, and they were much larger than ordinary stars. The surface of the meteorites was as bright as gold, flashing with extremely bright golden light that illuminated the heavens and the earth. Chapter 4288. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the first meteorite crashed into Zhuan's face. Zhuan did not dare to be careless. He gripped the hilt of the Taiyu sacred sword tightly with his right hand and slashed out, using the heaven and earth primordial, a line of heaven and earth. Only the surface of the Taiyu sacred sword burst out with 3 strange colors: purple, black, and gold. Then, it turned into a sword chi that pierced through the heavens and earth, slashing at the meteorite. Linked to Zhuan's surprise, the falling meteorite was only stopped by the sword chi for a few breaths of time. It actually annihilated the sword chi and continued to fall. Zhuan sighed softly and did not hold back anymore. He used the sword shaking the 9th heaven and the morning life and evening death consecutively. Only then did he manage to shatter the first meteorite. It had to be said that this glittering meteorite was really too hard. After Zhuan managed to shatter the meteorite, the web between his thumb and index finger on his right hand faintly ruptured, and traces of blood flowed out. Although the ruptured web between his thumb and index finger quickly healed by itself, this also showed how terrifying this meteorite was. Immediately after, even more meteorites fell from the sky. Zhuan couldn't deal with so many meteorites in a short period of time, so he used his movement technique to dodge all the meteorites that were falling down. But, to his disbelief, the meteorites that he dodged actually turned around and continued to chase after him. Zhuan smiled bitterly. He knew that this calamity was very targeted at him and did not give him a chance to escape at all. Zhuan used one divine ability after another, shattering meteorites one after another. However, he also became more and more miserable, and the injuries on his body began to become more and more serious. When the last meteorite was about to hit Zhuan, the latter suddenly felt an indescribable sense of danger. He suddenly slashed behind him with his sword, only to see an arrow formed by rolling demonic chi was directly shattered by him. The timing and angle of the arrow were extremely tricky, forcing Zhuan to turn around to defend himself. However, this also left him no extra time to defend against the meteorite in front of him. Meteorite Stone charged forward without slowing down and crashed heavily in front of Zhuan. Zhuan only had time to summon all of his divine power to cover the surface of his body before the meteorite slammed into him. He was suppressed by the meteorite and slammed into the ground. An earth-shaking explosion resounded between heaven and earth. In the center of the abyssal bone wasteland, a glittering meteorite stood erect on the wasteland like a mountain. Zhuan was suppressed by this huge meteorite at the bottom. Outside the black bone wasteland, outside the range of the calamity, several figures appeared. Emolan of the limitless demon sect slowly withdrew his right hand. The surging demonic chi in his right hand was slowly sucked back into his body as a proud look appeared in his eyes. Brother Molan, your timing is perfect. Doko of the Beacon Fire Academy smiled and complimented him a little. It was just a small trick. I just don't know if this Zhuoan is already dead. Emolan shook her head and said indifferently, this kid's great calamity of heaven and earth is really not simple. The power of the meteorite just now was extraordinary. Even if an expert of the great calamity of heaven and earth was hit head-on, he would die on the spot, let alone this kid who has yet to complete the great calamity of heaven and earth. Eryu of the Three Divine Prison shook his head and said, Everyone else nodded inwardly. They also didn't think that Zhuoan was still alive. It turns out that this kid can't even withstand a single blow. It's a waste for us to mobilize so many people. It's really a waste of talent. Suda of the Five Immortals Divine Sect said gloomily, No, look, the calamity hasn't dispersed yet. This means that the person undergoing the great calamity of heaven and earth is not dead yet. Suddenly, the Buddhist sect's expert looked at the abyssal bone wasteland and said in surprise, Everyone. They quickly looked over and found that the calamity energy in the black holes above the abyssal bone wasteland had not disappeared. Instead, it had begun to brew a new wave of calamity. Boom! Boom! With a loud explosion, the mountain-like meteorite in the center of the abyssal bone wasteland seemed to have been hit by an extremely powerful energy and shattered into countless pieces and powder. A rather wretched figure slowly floated above the wasteland. He was Zhuoan. Zhuoan's gaze was malicious. He looked at the edge of the abyssal bone wasteland and saw a large number of experts. He also saw 7 figures standing in front of the crowd. Finally, his gaze locked onto Emolan of the limitless demon sect. He knew that the arrow with surging demonic chi was shot by Emolan. Your limitless demon sect dares to attack me? One looked at Emolan and questioned him. Among the 7 forces, only the genius of the limitless demon sect, Black Lotus, was spared. Most of the credit was due to Zhuoan's mercy. He thought that after Black Lotus left, he would be able to persuade Emolan not to go against Zhuoan. He didn't expect that Emolan would still come and be the first to attack him. Black Lotus was deceived by your flowery words. Do you think that I don't know? Today, I am here to kill you and let Black Lotus regain his sanity, Emolan said sarcastically. Zhuoan's eyes were filled with killing intent. However, he suppressed it and looked at the rest of the people. Everyone, are you looking for the wrong person? I don't know any of you. Why are you looking for me? Zhuoan asked coldly. Why are you asking when you already know the answer? You killed our juniors in the Black Gold Mountain Range. Do you think that we will let this matter rest and leave just like that? We are here to seek an explanation for our juniors. Of course, if there is no explanation, you can pay with your life. Many experts spoke one after another. Their eyes were filled with murderous intent as they looked at Zhuoan. However, Zhuoan's senses were very sharp. From the killing intent in their eyes, he could see the greed in their eyes. This group of people did not come to kill him just for revenge. The third wave of calamity tribulation was coming. These experts would definitely take the opportunity to interfere with his calamity tribulation. This would increase the difficulty of his calamity tribulation. Zhuoan knew that he had to buy some time. Otherwise, the upcoming calamity tribulation would be extremely dangerous for him. Everyone, you should know that I am forced to do this. All of this was caused by the orders of the 7 Castellans. If it were not for the orders of the 7 Castellans, I would not have become the target of public criticism and stand against the other contestants. If it were not for the orders of the 7 Castellans, your juniors would not have died in the Black Gold Mountain Range. Now, all of you are actually being used by others. I think that all of you are very smart. You don't look like fools who will be manipulated by others. After Wen's words, some of the people outside the Blackbone Wasteland came to their senses. Many of the people inside were already filled with rage. Therefore, they did not think too much and just followed the crowd to shout and kill Zhuowen. Of course, there were more people who did not fall for Zhuowen's trick. Their original intention was not just to seek revenge for their juniors. Zhuowen, of course we know what you are saying. However, when you were the target of public criticism, you did not have to be so ruthless. Was it so difficult to spare our juniors' lives? Doko from Fenghua Academy questioned one. Zhuowen sneered. The situation at that time was already at the stage of life and death. If he had been merciful, it was very likely that he would have been killed. In fact, he, Zhuowen, was the real victim. Now, this Doko actually questioned him why he did not show mercy at that time. When facing an enemy who wanted to kill him, he still had to show mercy. What kind of bullshit *T logic was that? Chapter 4289. Zhuowen, there's no need to stall for time. Today, even if you don't die, you will die. Everyone, his next calamity is about to begin. Use your long-range attacks and aim at him together. He was a smart person. With a glance, he could tell that Zhuowen was stalling for time and unceremoniously exposed Zhuowen. Sensing the unfriendly gazes from the surroundings, Zhuowen's face darkened. It seemed that whatever he said was useless. This kid deserves to die. Let's kill him first. Someone shouted, and then some people started to attack. This sentence was like a fuse that completely ignited everyone's emotions. In an instant, everyone launched their own attacks. Only streaks of multicolored and terrifying attacks swept over from a distance. Like resplendent, flowing flames, they tore through the air and greeted Zhuowen's body. You forced me to do this. Zhuowen took a deep breath. Sensing the third wave of calamity that was about to arrive in the sky, his eyes calmed down. Zhuowen formed a seal with both hands, and then his entire body quickly melted, turning into a pool of invisible water that merged into the depths of the Blackbone Wasteland. Secret art. Water escape. Boom, boom, boom. The moment Zhuowen used the secret art, water escape, everyone's densely packed attacks arrived on time. Intense sounds of breaking through the air continuously resounded in the surroundings. In the blink of an eye, Zhuowen's body was bombarded by all kinds of energy. In the center of the Blackbone Wasteland, a terrifying light was set off, shooting straight into the clouds. Following that was a huge explosion and a huge sound of the earth cracking. Although it was said that everyone had not used their full strength and was only using ordinary attacks, but with so many people, and all of them were at least experts of the great calamity of heaven and earth, their combined attacks were truly powerful and terrifying. The experts from the 7 great forces stood at the front of the crowd, sneering as they watched the scene unfold in the Blackbone Wasteland. With so many people joining forces to attack, this kid should not be able to resist at all. He should be about to die. Suda of the 5 Immortals' divine sect said with a faint smile. Sinus Ko frowned slightly. He glanced at the many frightening large black holes in the sky above the Blackbone Wasteland. An ominous feeling rose in his heart when he discovered that these black holes did not disappear. Instead, the energy brewing within them became more and more frightening. The black hole in front of us seems to be moving towards us. Am I hallucinating? The evil spirit of the 3rd prison of God stared at the black hole in the sky and couldn't help but exclaim. Everyone came to their senses. Sure enough, they found that the terrifying black hole was moving toward them at an extremely fast speed. Not good, retreat. As expected, that Zhuowen won't die so easily. He's moving towards us. He wants to drag us into his calamity. Do said. Nock immediately understood. Without even thinking, he quickly retreated. The moment Do Gong retreated, Suda, Yu, Mo Lan, and the other experts of the 7 major forces also retreated rapidly, retreating thousands of miles away. Doko, Suda, and the other 6 people were all astute. They retreated in time, but the rest of the people reacted half a beat slower. Dang, after Doko and the others had retreated thousands of miles away, they finally reacted. They wanted to follow Doko and the others, but it was already too late. because behind them, a pool of invisible water gushed out from the depths of the ground and turned into a human figure. While this figure happened to stand in front of everyone, cutting off their path of retreat. Zhuowen, looking at the young man in front of them, who had a cold smile on his face, everyone was shocked. They didn't know how this young man had silently circled behind them. Rumble. All of a sudden, an endless flood poured down from the sky. Many experts present were swept away by the flood and screamed miserably. They finally came to their senses. The numerous black holes that were originally above the center of the abyssal bone wasteland had now appeared above their heads along with Zhuowen. Black inside the cave, the flood came wave after wave. The water wasn't transparent, but silvery white. It looked like mercury and was extremely corrosive. Flood. The water flooded the Golden Mountain. Many experts who were only at the early stage of the Great Tribulation of Universe were submerged by the terrifying flood. They didn't even have time to scream before they were corroded to nothing. While those who were at the middle stage of the Great Tribulation of Universe and above had activated their world of universe in time to protect themselves. This was why they weren't directly corroded by the terrifying flood and died. Clang! However, this flood was definitely not simple. As the silver-white water continued to surge out, its corrosiveness became more and more terrifying. The world of universe of the cultivators at the middle and late stages of the Great Tribulation of Universe began to be corroded and showed signs of collapse. Zhuowen, on the other hand, had a serious look in his eyes. Numerous stars revolved around him, forming an indestructible astral domain that resisted the terrifying silver-white flood around him. However, although his star domain was powerful, it couldn't withstand the impact of the terrifying flood. The stars were constantly corroded and shattered. Following as time passed, his star completely shattered, and he could only summon 4 strands of Soul Sword Intent to form a powerful Soul Sword Intent defense around him. Zhuowen's Soul Sword Intent, released by one, was at the peak of the Great Tribulation of Universe. It barely blocked the impact of the surrounding flood. While only then did Zhuowen realize that there were only a dozen or so cultivators left out of the originally large number of cultivators attacking him. These dozen or so people were all at the peak of the Great Tribulation of Universe. They were struggling to resist the terrifying corrosiveness of the flood. As for the cultivators below the peak of the Great Tribulation of Universe, they had basically been washed away by the flood to the point that not even their bones remained. Only therefore, these surviving peak experts of the great calamity of heaven and earth all revealed terrified expressions. Is this really the Great Tribulation of Universe? Why is it so terrifying that it can even kill cultivators of the Great Tribulation of Universe? This guy's a freak, right? How can the Great Tribulation of Universe be so terrifying? The peak experts who were bitterly enduring the Great Tribulation of Universe looked at Zhuowen as if they had seen a ghost. Moreover, they tried their best to stay away from Zhuowen, this fiend. They had all experienced the Great Tribulation of Universe. Although they had narrowly escaped death during the tribulation, no matter how powerful the Great Tribulation of Universe energy was, it was very difficult for it to pose too much of a threat to experts who had already advanced to the Great Tribulation of Universe. However, Zhuowen's Great Tribulation of Universe was too special and powerful. It actually swept through a group of experts of the Great Tribulation of Universe. Even these old fellows who had cultivated to the peak of the Great Tribulation of Universe could only barely resist it. Zhuowen, you little bastard. If you want to transcend the tribulation, then transcend the tribulation. Why did you have to drag us in? You bastard. These survivors began to curse Zhuowen. The reason why they had ended up like this was all thanks to Zhuowen. I tried to persuade you to leave, but you didn't listen at all. Instead, you wanted to kill me. Since that's the case, I naturally have to let you have a good taste of my tribulation. It's just a pity that there are still some fish that escaped the net. As he spoke, he couldn't help but glance thousands of miles away. His face was gloomy as he looked at Doko, Suda, and the other 7 people. If he could drag all 7 of them into his tribulation, Zhuowen would be able to borrow the power of the Great Tribulation of Universe to easily kill these people in a short period of time. However, these 7 people were too cautious. Chapter 4290. Crash. Crash. At the same time, another magma-like golden-red flood poured down from the black hole in the sky. Clang. When the golden-red water fused with the silver-white water, its corrosiveness became even more terrifying. The dozen or so heaven and earth great calamity peak experts who were still barely holding on naturally felt the corrosiveness of the surrounding flood become even stronger. Their universe world was being devoured at an extremely fast speed and was constantly shrinking. On the other hand, the four-sword intense around Zhuowen started to dim more and more. Zhuowen snorted coldly and took out 4 more powerful divine soul sword intense. They were spread out in 4 different directions. He was surrounded by 8 divine soul sword intense, barely holding on. And the rest of the dozen or so heaven and earth great calamity peak experts were completely submerged by the overwhelming flood amidst their unwilling roars. The entire world was filled with the ear-piercing, sizzling sound of something being corroded. In the end, these dozen or so heaven and earth great calamity peak experts were destroyed in body and soul under the flood. Zhuowen was struggling to resist the increasingly terrifying flood while paying attention to Do-Ko, Suda, and the other 7 who were still glaring at him like tigers watching their prey thousands of miles away. No wonder so many geniuses in the Golden Crow Mountain Range were all killed by this child. This child is truly not simple. Cao Dao's gaze became extremely serious. Zhuowen had appeared behind everyone without a sound, which had really surprised him. Even the 7 of them, who had the highest cultivation bases, were unable to sense when Zhuowen had appeared behind them. This child has mastered many powerful secret techniques. I'm afraid he must have obtained them from the treasure trove of the 7 emotions, 6 desires Saint Lord. Moreover, his growth speed is extremely fast. This child absolutely cannot stay here for long. Mo Lan suddenly said. Do-Ko, Suda, and the others also nodded, although Zhuowen's current cultivation was far inferior to theirs. But they could clearly feel the immense threat from Zhuowen's body. They had to get rid of this child. Do-Ko, pay attention to this child's movements at all times. Once he uses the secret technique again to teleport to us, inform us immediately. As for the remaining 6 of us, we'll interfere with this kid from the outside. We must make sure that you can't successfully transcend the tribulation. The killing intent in Mo Lan's eyes was boiling. Zhuowen's potential shocked him, and he was even a little afraid. He, in his mind, the words that Black Lotus had said to him before involuntarily echoed, which made him more determined to kill Zhuowen. Good. Leave the surveillance work to me. The 6 of you go. Do-Ko nodded. Demon Lan was very straightforward. As soon as Do-Kong agreed, he pointed at the void with his right hand. Rolling demonic chi rushed out and formed a powerful black arrow. Each arrow hit Zhuowen's vital points. Su, with a flick of his finger, numerous strands of sword chi shot out through the air. Buddha Zong, on the other hand, chanted the name of Buddha. Just like the Buddha's shadow, he had a compassionate look on his face, but his actions were extremely ruthless. He blasted out a palm, and a golden palm print soared into the sky like a mountain, then fell towards Zhuowen's head. Huan Ri of the Water Moon Fantasy House was a beautiful Taoist nun. Seeing that the rest of the people had made their moves, she sighed in her heart and waved the horsetail whisk in her hand. Terrifying wind blades swept out. Remaining Yeyu of the Third Prison of the Gods and Lu Qingchun of the Moon Chopping Sacred Pavilion were not willing to be left behind. They also used their own means. Terrifying attacks also shot out through the air, shaking the heavens and the earth. Boom! At the center of the flood, Zhuowen was as still as a mountain. The 8 divine soul sword essences around him flashed with sharp light, protecting him in the center and resisting the raging flood. Have they still made their moves? Wen's eyes were cold. He naturally noticed the 6 terrifying attacks flying toward him. none in desperation. He had to divert his attention and release the 6 divine soul sword essences again. They shot out and blocked the attacks of Emolan, Suda, and the rest. It was because of this distraction that the power of the surging flood made him groan and involuntarily spit out a large mouthful of blood. This boy's divine soul is not ordinary. He can actually resist the attacks of the 6 of you. Doko's eyes were sharp. He was surprised to see that the attacks of Emolan and the rest were all blocked by the divine soul sword essences. His divine soul has probably reached the early stage of the cosmic Dharma form. Look at the surface of the 6 divine soul sword essences. They are burning with the Dharma form fire. Our attacks all carry the Dharma form fire, and the only way to resist the power of the Dharma form fire is to use the Dharma form fire itself or a higher level of energy. Lu Qingshan interrupted. F*CK. He has only undergone the ancient star transformation, and he already has the divine soul power of the cosmic Dharma form. No wonder this guy can kill so many geniuses unscathed. Nye said in horror. Stop talking nonsense and continue to attack. This boy's great tribulation of heaven and earth is very terrifying. Coupled with our interference, his chances of survival are very small. Doko urged the other 6. Emolan and the rest were not annoyed. Doko was right. Zhuowen was a great threat, and they naturally needed to get rid of him as soon as possible. A new round of attacks swept out, and the target was Zhuowen every time. The pressure on Zhuowen also increased. He had to resist the great tribulation of heaven and earth while diverting his attention to resist the attacks of Emolan and the rest. This made him very passive. As time passed, Zhuowen's tribulation became more and more terrifying. All kinds of tribulations came one after another in an endless stream. Even the sky and earth changed color. While Zhuowen's condition was very bad, his body was covered in wounds, and his face was pale and bloodless. He looked very dispirited. This should be the last tribulation. As long as I survive this tribulation, I will be able to successfully advance to the great tribulation of heaven and earth. When muttered to himself, he adjusted his condition to the best and began to face the final tribulation. Boom! Boom! God! The black holes in the sky began to shrink slowly. They shrank from infinitely large to infinitely small. When they finally became as small as an eyeball, they stopped shrinking. Then those small black holes shot out terrifying black rays of light. This black rays of light filled the air and shot down from the sky in a crisscross pattern. Their target was Zhuowen. Zhuowen mobilized all the energy in his body and looked sharply at the many black rays of light that were approaching him. He could clearly feel the terrifying energy fluctuations contained within these descending black rays of light. If he was careless, he might very well die in the last black ray of light. One after another, Zhuowen released his soul sword intent and arranged them above him, forming a sword-shaped defense. At this moment, Zhuowen did not dare to hold back at all. The soul sword essences that he released were all at the mid-stage of the Dharma phase of the universe. His face was very pale. It was still a little difficult for him to condense so many soul sword essences at once. At the moment when the two came into contact, Emolan and the others also saw this opportunity. They all released their respective Dharma phases. Even Doko gave up his surveillance and joined in the siege. This Dharma phase of the universe seemed to be connected to the heavens and the earth. Attack! Emolan shouted. His huge Dharma phase of the universe held a big bow condensed by devil chi. Then he drew the bow, knocked the arrow, and released it. The huge black arrow pierced through the sky and shot directly at Zhuowen's head. His 6 other Dharma phases of the universe, condensed by the other 6, also displayed their magical powers and used their most powerful long-range attacks. This attack of different brilliance came from all directions, leaving behind a dazzling and astonishing trajectory in the void. Chapter 4291. The black rays of light seemed to be everywhere. They descended from the sky and intertwined with each other, enveloping an area of several thousand kilometers around Zhuowen. As far as the eye could see, the endless black light was like a complex, intertwined black thread, forming a huge and extremely large cobweb-like cage. Zhuowen's expression was extremely serious. He looked at the endless black lines in the sky that were getting closer and closer. At the same time, he found that Doko, Lan, and the others were attacking him with all their strength. He knew that he had to use all his trump cards now. Otherwise, he would not have a chance. Crackle. Fear, a terrible explosion resounded in the entire space. In the blink of an eye, it blasted on Zhuowen's body. Only Doko, Lan, and the others' full-force attacks were like 7 angry dragons, descending on Zhuowen's body. 7 the attacks collided, and Zhuowen became the center of the collision. Then, a blazing and dazzling brilliance exploded. The full-force attacks of the 7 cosmic Dharma plane experts were extremely powerful. The ground kept sinking, and endless gravel floated in the air. This scene was like the end of the world, and heaven and earth did not exist. At the next moment, when the attacks of the 7 cosmic Dharma plane experts all fell on Zhuowen, the dense black light in the space fell down and fell on Zhuowen's body. The colorful energy brilliance was replaced by extreme darkness in the blink of an eye. It was the color of the black light, like a black poison, dyeing everything dark. Run! This last calamity is too terrifying, Doko shouted as he saw the black light spreading out in all directions. His eyes were filled with fear as he immediately flew away. Lan, Suda, and the others reacted quickly. They quickly retreated until they were nearly 100 million miles away. Only then did the terrifying black light stop spreading. When Doko and the others looked back at the area covered by the black light, they all gasped. Near the land within 100 million miles, under the cover of the black light, was lifeless. Everything was annihilated, and the ground kept sinking, forming a deeper and deeper abyss. Sinus knocked, and the others looked pale. Although they were quite conceited, they also knew that the black light was too terrifying. Even if they were in the range of the black light, they would at least be seriously injured. This kid was definitely going to die. However, the things on his body, Doko muttered to himself bitterly. They had come together to kill Zhuowen, but they also wanted to obtain the legacy and treasures of the Saint Master of 7 emotions and 6 desires that Zhuowen possessed. Now, under the destruction of the black light, Zhuowen's body and soul would definitely be destroyed. If the things on his body were also destroyed, it would not be good news for them. Let's wait for the last tribulation to disperse before we enter this place to search. The 7 emotions, 6 desires, Saint Lord is an expert at the level of Ni Gu Starlight. How can his things be destroyed so easily? Lan said in a deep voice. As everyone else agreed with Lan's words. Things belonging to the 7 emotions, 6 desires, Saint Lord were not so easily destroyed. At this time, as the minutes and seconds passed, the terrifying black light began to gradually diminish. The terrifying aura of the tribulation also gradually weakened. Doko, Suda, and the others silently guarded the periphery, waiting for the moment when all the black light disappeared. The 7 of them were vigilant, glancing at the others from the corner of their eyes from time to time. They were always on guard against any sudden attacks. Finally, when the last black light disappeared, all the black holes in the sky gradually disappeared, and the sky revealed light. The 7 of them, who had been separated by a distance, displayed their movement skills at the same time and quickly rushed toward the core area. They all wanted to find Zhuowen's body as soon as possible. There's light? Doko was the fastest. His figure was graceful as he arrived at the core area. Due to the tribulation, the surrounding 100 million miles had completely become a bottomless abyss. Doko was the latest to arrive at the core area of the abyss and saw a strange light there. Although Doko was puzzled, he did not think too much about it. Instead, he quickly approached the light. After getting closer, Doko realized that the source of the light was a large seal, which was suspended in midair. This seal was like a guiding light at the bottom of the abyss, guiding the lost people to this place. And below the seal, a figure was sitting cross-legged. Because his back was facing Doko, Doko could not see the figure's true face. Doko was smart. He could tell at a glance that this figure was exactly the same as Zhuan's. Did that mean that Zhuan was not dead? As soon as this thought appeared in his mind, the figure that was originally sitting cross-legged suddenly stood up and turned around, revealing a face that was rather pleasing to the eye. He was none other than Zhuan. At this moment, Zhuan was still in a very sorry state. His body was covered in wounds, and blood flowed freely. However, his aura was as vast as the sea and unfathomable. It made Doko feel apprehensive. In particular, the seal hanging above Zhuan's head gave Doko an extremely strong sense of danger. That seal was not simple. "You're not dead," Doko exclaimed. "Thanks to all of you, I almost died." Zhuan stared coldly at Doko in front of him. When the seven of them had joined forces to attack him, his soul and sword intent had been forced to resist their attacks, causing him to lose the best opportunity to defend himself against the black beam of light, which had almost killed him. Although he had finally used the Grand Emperor's seal to escape death, he had suffered a lot because of it. You're lucky to be able to pass the tribulation smoothly. It should be the credit of this seal. Now, hand the seal over to me, and I can promise not to attack you. Doko looked at the Grand Emperor's seal hanging above Zhuan's head with a blazing gaze. With his sharp eyes, he could tell at a glance that this Grand Emperor's seal was extraordinary. He subconsciously thought that this Grand Emperor's seal was a treasure that Zhuan had obtained from the Seven Emotions, Six Desires, Saint Lord's treasury. Zhuan sneered. This Doko really did not care about his face. Just now, he was shouting to kill him, and now he was asking for something from him. How shameless! Get lost! Zhuan said softly. Even Doko's face darkened. I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. Don't blame me for not showing mercy. Doko was filled with murderous intent. He immediately used his cosmic form and rushed toward Zhuan. Although Zhuan was only facing the great tribulation of heaven and earth, Doko knew that this person's strength could not be explained by common sense. Moreover, he was a cautious person. Therefore, he did not dare to show mercy. Doko's cosmic form was the image of a huge scholar holding a divine brush. Its body was surrounded by a long dragon of white rice paper. Doko held the divine brush in his right hand and pointed at the void. Countless black ink energy came from the void, vaporizing the space and collapsing heaven and earth. Zhuan put away the Grand Emperor's seal and took a step forward. A huge Qian Kuan world slowly rose from the void behind him. The moment Zhuan's Qian Kuan world appeared, Doko was completely shocked. Zhuan's Qian Kuan world was like a pagoda. It was actually 9 levels high. Each level was a different Qian Kuan world. Moreover, it was far more powerful than the Qian Kuan world of an ordinary Great Tribulation of heaven and earth cultivator. But Zhuan's Qian Kuan world was like 9 huge Qian Kuan worlds stacked together. Moreover, each level of the Qian Kuan world contained different terrifying Great Tribulation of heaven and earth energy. Chapter 4292. Is this the King Universe world? Qiu could not help but curse. Zhuowen's Qinquan world was too strange. He had never seen or heard of it before. Zhuowen's eyes were calm. His right hand pointed at the void, and in the universe world behind him, endless golden flames suddenly gushed out from the lowest layer, easily evaporating the ink into mist. After blocking Doko's attack, Zhuowen's right hand didn't stop. He pointed at the void again, and countless ice crystals gushed out from the second layer of his universe world. Countless ice crystals condensed in the void, turning into a giant ice sculpture-like beast. It roared and charged at Doko with unstoppable momentum. Doko's face was gloomy. He didn't hold back anymore. The divine brush in his hand quickly drew on the rice paper in front of him. No, after 3 breaths of time, a lifelike giant Pishio appeared on the rice paper. Doko's divine brush shook slightly. The Pishio roared and came to life, jumping out of the paper. Bang! Bang! The two giant beasts fiercely collided in midair. Shocking beastly roars continuously resounded. Zhuowen's right hand didn't stop. He pointed at the void, and the third and fourth layers of tribulation energy spread out in the sky, rushing toward Doko. The third and fourth layers of tribulation energy were both lightning tribulations. However, the third layer was blood lightning, and the fourth layer was black lightning. Their power was extremely terrifying. Doko's face was a little pale. The divine brush in his hand didn't stop drawing on the rice paper. Strange beasts jumped out of the paper, rushing out. However, the blood lightning and black lightning were too terrifying. The strange beasts that Doko drew couldn't resist for long. They were all killed. Doko could only passively retreat. He kept drawing all kinds of strange beasts, weapons, and attack methods on the rice paper, blocking the blood lightning and black lightning. Doko's face was ugly. He could see that Zhuowen's universe world had 9 layers. The tribulation energy of each layer should be different, and each layer should be more terrifying than the previous one. Zhuowen was only standing there, but he was forced into such a difficult situation. This made Doko both shocked and afraid of Zhuowen. How could there be such a powerful universe tribulation expert in this world? Here at this moment, Zhuowen was also a little shocked by the strength of his Qiankuan world. He had only used the 4th level of tribulation energy, but he was actually evenly matched with Dokong. It should be noted that Doko was an expert at the early stage of the Dharma laws of the universe. In the past, if he had to deal with such an expert, he would have to use all his strength. It would not be as easy as it was now. Zhuowen's right hand pointed in the air again. He was about to release the 5th level's calamity energy, but he discovered that a terrifying power was beginning to devour his body. Zhuowen let out a muffled groan. He immediately knew that his limit should be using the tribulation energy of the 5th level. Furthermore, after using it, it would have quite a few side effects on him. As his cultivation level continued to increase, Zhuowen knew that the calamities in the subsequent levels of the universe world would all be under his control. Whoosh whoosh. However, a series of whooshing sounds came from all around the chasm. Emolan, Suda, and the other 5 appeared around Zhuowen. After entering the abyss, they had been searching aimlessly for Zhuowen, scattering in various parts of the abyss. Now, they were attracted by the commotion caused by the battle between Zhuowen and Doko, and they all rushed over. This kid is actually not dead. He's really lucky. Emolan, Suda, and the others also revealed looks of surprise. Obviously, they were deeply surprised that Zhuowen was not dead, especially when they saw that Doko was actually evenly matched with Zhuowen, Emolan, Suda, and the rest of the 6 revealed looks of disbelief. This kid has just advanced to the universe tribulation, and he's actually on par with Doko. He's so changeable. Look, this kid's Qiankuan world is extremely unusual. It actually has 9 levels, and each level is formed by a complete Qiankuan world. Emolan, Suda, and the others' faces darkened. They were all shocked by Zhuowen's strength. Only yes, the shock in their eyes was quickly replaced by killing intent and gloominess. The stronger Zhuowen was, the greater the trouble in the future. The more they want to get rid of this kid. Everyone, what are you still looking at? Let's attack together. We have already completely offended this kid. With his growth speed, it will be easy for him to take revenge on us in the future. If we don't eliminate the roots now, there will be endless trouble in the future. Seeing that he couldn't do anything to Zhuowen for the time being, he became a little anxious. When he saw that Emolan and the others were still looking around, he couldn't help but say in a flustered and exasperated manner, "Everyone, what are you waiting for? Let's attack together." Emolan said coldly. He summoned his cosmic aspect and rushed towards Zhuowen. Suda of the 5 Immortals Divine Sect was not to be outdone. He also summoned his cosmic aspect and followed closely behind Emolan. Amiba, This kid's evil spirit is too deep. This old monk must get rid of this evil for the sake of the people. The Buddhist sect pretended to chant a Buddhist mantra. He also summoned his Vajra Dharma idol and rushed out. This old bald donkey is still so hypocritical. It's disgusting to see him like this. Lu Qingxun of the Moon Chopping Sacred Pavilion looked at the Buddhist sect with disdain. Her subordinates' movements were not slow either. They also used all their strength. The remaining evil spirit of the three suppression divine prisons and Huan Ri of the Water Moon Illusory House did not say a word. They both summoned their cosmic aspects and used their actions to express their decision. With the addition of Mo Lan, Su De, and the other 5 people, the originally evenly matched situation instantly changed. The calamities released by Zhuowen were all blocked by the 7 people. At the same time, the 7 people were constantly approaching Zhuowen. They planned to give Zhuowen a thunderous blow and kill him completely. Zhuowen Zhe's expression was calm. He pointed his right hand at the void again and released the calamity energy of the 5th level. The calamity of this level was a terrifying flood that surged endlessly. This flood was silver white and fiery red in color. Zhuowen released the 2 types of flood at the same time. The strong corrosiveness even corroded the void into nothingness. Originally, the 7 people who had rushed in front of Zhuowen were caught off guard. They were washed away by the rolling flood and retreated in a sorry state. Along with that, at the same time, they were horrified to find that this strange flood was constantly eating away at the energy film on the surface of their cosmic aspects. This guy, Mo Lan muttered. Just as Lan was about to curse, a strong sense of crisis rose in his heart. He suddenly raised his head and saw Zhuowen holding the Taiyu sacred sword and floating over. The sword pierced through, and the target was him. Mo Lan was in the middle of the flood vortex. His movements were inevitably hindered. He also had to divert his attention to resist the terrifying corrosive power of the flood. He could only use 1/3 of his strength to resist Zhuowen's attack. However, Mo Lan did not panic. Although Zhuowen's Qiankuan world was very strange, he did not think that Zhuowen's own strength could be that strong. No matter how strong Zhuowen was, his cultivation was only in the great calamity of Qiankuan. He only used 1/3 of his strength, which was enough to force Zhuowen to retreat. Bang! Mo Lan's huge cosmic aspect suddenly punched out, smashing toward Zhuowen's face. Zhuowen's expression was cold. His movements were like lightning. He dodged Mo Lan's punch and quickly slashed out with the Taiyu's sacred sword in his hand. Clang! The moment Zhuowen and Mo Lan passed each other, Mo Lan's huge cosmic aspect's right arm soared into the sky and then landed heavily on the ground. Chapter 4293. When the right arm of the Dharma form fell to the bottom of the abyss, there was a clear sound of collision. Mo Lan reacted and looked at his broken right arm in fear. Heaven and earth, one line of heaven. Mo Lan's eyes turned red. Just as he was about to scream, an indifferent voice sounded from behind him. Amidst the indifferent voice, an extremely terrifying sword light swept out, like endless flowing flames, and landed heavily on Mo Lan's body. Demon Mo Lan roared and used all his strength to block the sword light that Zhuowen threw out again. But, unfortunately, he could only use 1/3 of his strength, and the result was self-evident. His Dharma form's left arm was chopped off, and even half of his body was broken. Zhuowen stepped into the void and turned into a flash of lightning. He kept flashing around Mo Lan, and every time he flashed, he would throw out a terrifying sword light. Under Zhuowen's repeated slashes, Mo Lan's huge Dharma idol began to become riddled with holes and became extremely dim. Sword shaking the 9 heavens, Zhuowen appeared in front of Mo Lan's Dharma form again, and the Taiyu's sacred sword in his right hand slashed out again. The rolling sword chi kept rising, forming a terrifying sword chi whirlpool. The sword chi whirlpool grew bigger and bigger as it spun like a snowball. Finally, it hit the Dharma form's chin. The terrifying destructive power caused Mo Lan's Dharma form's head to be pierced through by the sword chi whirlpool. The huge Dharma form was also crushed into dust by the sword chi whirlpool. Poof! Poof! Demon! As soon as Mo Lan's Dharma form was crushed, Mo Lan quickly retreated. He was in a sorry state, and blood was flowing out of his 7 orifices. He looked ferocious. Here Mo Lan was scared out of his wits. As soon as he retreated from the Dharma form, he ran out of the abyss without looking back. Naturally, Zhuan would not allow Mo Lan to escape just like that. The Qian Kuan world, which was floating not far away, descended and completely suppressed Mo Lan within the Qian Kuan world. All kinds of calamities came one after another and landed on Mo Lan. Mo Lan was in so much pain that he wanted to die, and he kept screaming. After dealing with Mo Lan cleanly, Zhuowen's expression remained calm. The power of the 3 divine abilities he had created was already very strong. Now, he'd even broken through to the world tribulation, so the might of these 3 divine abilities had naturally risen to a whole new level, and they were unstoppable. It's your turn now. Zhuowen's eyes were fixed on the other 6 people in the endless flood. The remaining 6 felt a chill in their hearts. They felt a deep sense of fear and dread. In any case, Mo Lan was a strong cultivator at the early stage of the Dharma phase of the universe. How could the 6 of them not feel an intense sense of danger when he was so easily dealt with by this young man? The 5 of you, don't hold back. Nine-leveled Qian Kuan world. This person's potential is stronger than I expected. He is even stronger than Sakyamuni back then. The mysterious woman's eyes shone with a strange light. After seeing Zhuan's Qian Kuan world, her beautiful eyes shone with a strange light. She could not help but mumble softly to herself. 6 early-stage Dharma powers of the universe are burning their Dharma powers to attack this person together. I wonder if this person can withstand the combined attacks of the 6 of them? The secret female cultivator frowned slightly. She was considering whether to help Zhuan block the attacks of the 6 people. However, after thinking about it, she gave up. She wanted to observe Zhuan more. She had a feeling that this Zhuan was not simple. Perhaps he could withstand the combined attacks of the 6 Dharma powers of the universe. It has begun. The mysterious woman's beautiful eyes slowly narrowed. She saw that at the bottom of the abyss, the 6 crazy Dharma powers of the universe had finally collided fiercely with Zhuan. Life in the morning and death in the evening. A faint voice sounded faintly in the abyss. At this moment, time in the entire abyss seemed to have stopped. Whether it was life or death, love or hatred, all of it seemed to have stopped at this moment. In the depths of the abyss, there was only a flash of sword light that shone eternally. This flash of sword light was too shocking. Daodu, Suda, and the rest of the 6 people who had burned their Dharma powers unleashed their attacks together and collided heavily with this flash of sword light. The 2 of them exploded with a terrifying sound of explosion and a blinding light. Pucci! Zhuan suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. The part of his right hand that was holding the sword was completely shattered. Blood splattered everywhere. However, his eyes were filled with madness. He began to continuously activate the endless calamity power of the Qian Kuan world to resist the combined attacks of the 6 Dharma powers. Dodo, Suda, and the rest of the 6 people were not in a good state either. Their combined attacks had indeed gained the upper hand, but they were unable to completely suppress Zhuan's flash of sword light. Instead, they were met with an extremely strong resistance. The after effects of burning their Dharma powers were gradually appearing on their bodies, making them feel very uncomfortable. Chapter 4294. Continue to burn your Dharma power and kill him in one fell swoop. Do Chio roared. Nok went completely mad. He roared and burned his Dharma idol even more desperately. One could see that his Dharma idol was melting. Once it completely melted, his Dharma idol would be completely destroyed. However, Doko obviously didn't consider this. The only thing he wanted to do now was to completely kill Zhuowen. Su Suda, Lu Qingchun, and the other four felt uncomfortable, but they gritted their teeth and continued to burn their Dharma power. They did not want to give Zhuowen any chance to catch his breath. Zhuowen once again spat out a mouthful of blood as he continuously retreated. That dazzling sword light began to dim. Sigh. Indeed, with my current strength, it is still difficult to fight against 6 cosmic Dharma power masters alone. Zhuowen sighed and took out the Grand Emperor's seal from his sleeve. Grand Emperor, the Grand Emperor's seal was mysterious. Even though Zhuowen had broken through the Qian Kuan tribulation, he still did not know the details of this thing. He only knew that the Grand Emperor's seal was so powerful that it scared him. When the sword light was completely destroyed, Zhuowen held the Grand Emperor's seal and stared at the attacks of the 6 masters who were getting closer and closer. He channeled his divine power into the Grand Emperor's seal, and with a flip of his right hand, he threw the Grand Emperor's seal at the approaching attacks. After the Grand Emperor's seal left his hand, it expanded from the size of a palm to the size of a huge mountain and stood in front of Zhuowen. Boom! Dochio Suda and the other 4 masters did not hesitate to burn their Dharma power to launch a joint attack. However, not only did they fail to leave a single mark on the Grand Emperor's seal, but these terrifying attacks also dissipated and disappeared. Phew! This boy is finally going to die in our hands. Dochio, Suda, and the other 5 heaved a sigh of relief when they saw that the stubborn sword light was completely destroyed by their attacks. Now Zhuowen had become their nightmare. If Zhuowen did not die, they would not be able to rest easy. Now, they were certain that Zhuowen would not be able to live. But soon, they saw the Grand Emperor's seal in front of Zhuowen and were all stunned. While when they saw the mountain-like Emperor Tai's seal moving rapidly and appearing above their heads, the shock in their eyes turned into fear. The unfathomable and terrifying aura from the Imperial Tai seal sent chills down their spines. Even the depths of their souls felt fear. Fear the terrifying aura poured down like a waterfall. Doko and the other 5 cultivators trembled in fear. They wanted to activate their universe avatars again as a last-ditch effort. But this was because their Dharma idols had been burned too badly. At this moment, their Dharma idols were in tatters. Now, she no longer dared to underestimate Zhuowen. He had just advanced to the cosmic tribulation, but he was already able to kill an early-stage Dharma adept of the universe. Such a monster was too big of a threat and could not be allowed to live. Lady Handsome, we have also seen the video that was sent back. This kid was able to kill the experts from the 7 organizations mainly because of the seal that he has. However, he has also paid a terrible price because of this. Now, he has no strength to fight at all. You don't have to do it yourself to capture this kid. Jian Luo and I will go in and capture him. God bless, suggested rather nonchalantly. Since many of the powerhouses who entered the Wujing mountain range were given jade tokens by the 7 castellans, there was a surveillance formation in the jade tokens. It could record everything that the jade token owner saw and reported back to the main token in Clear Sky City. Therefore, the girl and the rest were aware of the tragic battle that happened in the Black Gold Mountain range, while the mysterious lady only appeared after the battle ended. Therefore, the girl and the rest did not know that Zhuowen had an additional Eye of the Void and that he had recovered from his injuries. Female, she shook her head and said, "Even a lion has to go all out to capture a rabbit. What about us? This kid is cunning and unpredictable. We can't let our guard down. I have to enter the Black Gold Mountain range personally." Yu pursed his lips and did not say anything. On the other hand, Jian Luo remained silent as usual. The girl was decisive and resolute. After making her decision, she brought God Bless and Jian Luo into the tunnel in the central square of Clear Sky City and entered the Black Gold Mountain Range. However, the 7 city lords were still guarding the central square. Only the 7 city lords' faces were pale, and their limbs were trembling. At the moment the handsome female entered the passageway, they could clearly feel an extremely tyrannical divine sense sweep over the square. They knew that the girl must have attracted the attention of the experts who were hiding in the dark when she entered the Black Gold Mountain Range. Let them go. However, the 7 city lords found it strange. After the powerful divine consciousness scanned the square, they withdrew at the same time as if they had a tacit understanding. It was as if they were wary of each other and were afraid of each other. I wonder what these experts from the Supreme Realm are up to. They're not attacking or saying anything. Could it be that they're waiting for Zhuowen to come out? Di Luo City Lord Ling Luo said bitterly. That might be the case. The tunnel in Clear Sky City was the only way in and out of the Black Gold Mountain Range. If Zhuowen wanted to leave the Black Gold Mountain Range, he would have to come out from here. Otherwise, he would have to stay in the Black Gold Mountain Range forever. In the image, when Zhuowen broke through the attack band in the deepest part of the ground, the Jiao Yuan finally couldn't sit still. He stood up abruptly and looked at the approaching figure in horror. Boom! Suddenly, there was a violent tremor in the closed secret room where the Jiao Yuan was located. A huge crater suddenly appeared on the stone slab above the secret chamber. Smoke and dust filled the room. Amidst the billowing smoke and dust, a pillar-like figure leaped down and appeared in the secret chamber. The Jiao Yuan looked at the young man in front of him, and his pupils shrank. He exclaimed, "How is that possible? You're still in the passage. How did you get here so quickly?" Zhuowen looked calm, the corners of his mouth slightly raised, and said, "Look at the image behind you again." The Jiao Yuan's throat rolled, and he turned his head stiffly and looked at the image behind him. In the image, Zhuowen's figure was still there, and he was still struggling to break through the passage. Illusion. The Jiao Yuan's mouth was full of bitterness. He immediately knew that the image had been tampered with by Zhuowen. All he saw was an illusion. Are you a divine, array master of the eternal second heavenly layer? The Jiao Yuan finally faced the young man in front of him and asked the doubts in his heart. In his view, this child can crack the mechanisms and restrictions he arranged in the passage in such a short time, and also create illusions that even he can't recognize. This child's level of formation must be above him. Zhuowen nodded slightly and said, "If you don't want to die, leave here now." Thump! Suddenly, the Jiao Yuan knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Zhuowen. "Dren, can you accept me as a disciple and teach me a move and a half? My formation has been stuck in the eternal first heavenly layer for too long, and I have been unable to break through." Zhuowen was speechless for a while. He didn't expect that the Jiao Yuan suddenly wanted to worship him as a teacher. He looked at the hopeful Jiao Yuan and did not think that the latter was playing tricks. This person should be really fanatical about the formation. So when he learned that Zhuowen's formation level was so powerful, he immediately put down his body and wanted to worship him as a teacher. Zhuowen did not immediately refuse, but said with deep meaning, "Next, it depends on your own performance. Now I need to find the eye of the Di Luo City's city protection formation. The eye of the formation is here, Dren. Follow me." Seeing that Zhuowen did not refuse, the Jiao Yuan was overjoyed and led Zhuowen into the depths of the secret room. There is a larger stone room in the depths of the secret room. The stone room is empty and there is no debris. There is only a very complicated formation on the ground in the center. "Dren, This is the core imprint of the D. Luo City's city protection formation. It is the work of the old man's life. Do your job and don't bark at people. Zhuowen glanced at God Bless indifferently. You're asking for death. Xinyu was so angry that his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. A powerful aura surged out of him as he was about to attack Zhuowen. However, Jian Luo stopped him. Don't be rash. The handsome female lead is negotiating with this guy now. If you want to die, go over and have a look. Jian Luo reminded him. God Bless calmed down. He glared at Zhuowen coldly and withdrew his aura. The handsome female lead was emotionless. She said slowly, "You're willing to stay behind and wait for us for Duan Jiping. It's clear that you're a loyal person. To show my sincerity, I'll show you that Duan Jiping is indeed in my hands. I've already stated my conditions. This is your only choice. If you don't agree to it, I'll have to use force. Both you and Duan Jiping will have to die." Then, the handsome female lead signaled God Bless with her eyes. Although God Bless was pissed, he dared not disobey the handsome female lead's order. He took out the half-dead Duan Jiping from his storage device. At this moment, Duan Jiping was in an extremely miserable state. He was riddled with injuries and dripping with blood. His limbs, shoulder blades, waist, and other parts of his body had been penetrated by some sort of torture tool that flowed with brilliance, and it fiercely restrained all his mobility. Duan Jiping was panting. Perhaps God Bless's violent behavior had awakened him from his groggy state. He forced his heavy eyelids open and looked around. His body stiffened when he saw Zhuowen in front of him. After doing that, he retreated to the back lightly to create a distance between himself and Handsome Girl and the rest. All of this happened too suddenly. No one had expected that Zhuowen would suddenly go on a killing spree during the exchange. Handsome Girl and the rest only reacted when Zhuowen retreated to a certain distance away. "You must have a death wish. How dare you kill someone in front of me?" Handsome Girl was enraged. She knew that Zhuowen had tricked her. She immediately unleashed her cosmic dharma and charged at Zhuowen. Handsome Girl's cosmic dharma was more massive and solid than an ordinary cosmic dharma. It looked like a woman with 3 heads and 6 arms with a human head and a snake's body. The 3 female heads were beautiful with different expressions. One was calm, one was angry, and one was smiling. Meanwhile, the 6 slender hands were holding 6 different dharma instruments. She's worthy of being an expert at the pinnacle of the Cosmic Dharma Tower. What a powerful aura. The 6 city lords' faces turned extremely pale when they sensed the terrifying Cosmic Dharma aura unleashed by Handsome Girl. They retreated by instinct and did not attack Zhuowen together with Handsome Girl. The 6 of them were not dumb. They knew that although Zhuowen had used a trick to kill God Bless instantly, his ability should be equivalent to a mid-level Cosmic Dharma. If he fought with his life on the line, although he could not do anything to Handsome Girl, he could take them down with him. They were not from a Nuwa clan. Naturally, they did not have the determination to die for the Nuwa clan. Rumble, rumble. Handsome Girl's ability was too terrifying. As soon as her cosmic dharma appeared, the entire atmosphere became much more oppressive. Zhuowen's pupils dilated as his heart raced. It was his first time facing a pinnacle cosmic dharma expert. He did not expect a pinnacle cosmic dharma expert to be so much more powerful than a mid-level cosmic dharma expert. They were not on the same level at all. Die! Handsome Girl's face was ferocious. She was almost driven mad. As soon as she charged, her right palm blasted across the air. The palm was like countless meteorites falling. Its aura was so terrifying that it felt like the entire world was going to collapse and crack. The entire sky became a lot darker because of this palm. In his heart, he thought that after this female lead completely woke up, this array might not be able to stop her again. See, at this point, Zhuowen no longer hesitated and quickly entered the City Lord's mansion. Behind the underground stone chamber of the City Lord's mansion, there was a teleportation array that led to a valley 8,000 miles west of the Golden Crow mountain range. This transmission array was originally the retreat of the Jiu Yuan, secretly left here. Later, in order to be able to worship Zhuowen as a teacher, the Jiu Yuan was extremely attentive and also revealed this retreat. When Zhuowen returned to the underground stone room, Jiu Yuan greeted him and looked at Zhuowen with more and more fanatical eyes. "You are indeed master. Such a complex combination array, you can use it like an arm. This disciple admires you to the extreme," Jiu Yuan said fanatically. Zhuowen was speechless. This Jiu Yuan was indeed a fanatical lunatic who only had eyes for arrays. His focus was always from the perspective of arrays. If ordinary people, shouldn't they be shocked by Zhuowen's great strength? And the Jiu Yuan saw Zhuowen's method of using the combination array. "Jiu Yuan, activate the transmission array in the stone chamber. Let's leave here," Zhuowen ordered Jiu Yuan. Jiu Yuan naturally did not dare to be negligent. He hurriedly entered the stone chamber and began to activate the transmission array that he secretly tinkered with in the past. While Zhuowen took out a humanoid puppet from the outside world, he used the primordial grand mischance disguise technique to make the puppet look exactly like him. Even the puppet's aura was imitating his. This humanoid puppet was Xiao Hei's masterpiece. This guy usually used those precious ores to forge all kinds of humanoid puppets in addition to cultivating and swallowing ores. This humanoid puppet is the highest masterpiece of Xiao Hei. Its cultivation base is extremely powerful and has reached the peak of the great calamity of the universe. The strength of the peak. After Zhuowen dressed the humanoid puppet perfectly, he gave the humanoid puppet an order to return to the City Lord's residence and sit cross-legged in the lobby of the City Lord's residence. The formation flag of the large combination array in the Diluo city was handed over to the puppet by Zhuowen. In addition, Zhuowen also hid dozens of soul sword intents in the humanoid puppet. After doing this, Zhuowen stepped into the transmission array with Jiu Yuan after ensuring that it was foolproof. With a flash of brilliance, the two disappeared from the stone chamber, while the transmission array hidden in the dark compartment dissipated on its own after the transmission light faded, leaving no trace. Boom, boom, boom. The girl's eyes had completely regained their clarity. Her eyes were filled with anger. With a shout, the cosmic avatar erupted with extremely terrifying energy without reservation.